Hey, they brought us water, just like you said.
Yep.
Scooch over here, big guy. Sleep on my shoulder.
Already see the plants already out there. He doesn't have a bag.
I don't know who that is.
Hey, it being 7 o'clock, I'll call this meeting to order. If you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I want to announce that Chelmsford Telemedia is taping this broadcast, telecasting it live and taping it for later rebroadcast. If anybody else is audio or videotaping this meeting, please let me know at this time. Okay, thank you. Way in the back there. Thank you. Okay. We have a couple public service announcements today. One by Regina Jackson. I see that she's not here yet, so we'll hold off on that. Anybody here from Congregational Shalom? Paul, do you know if we were going to have anybody from there?
No, I think they want you to send that over to them.
Okay, if you want to just read that for us then.
Okay, I have the Town of Chelmsford proclamation in recognition of the 50th anniversary of Congregation Shalom, whereas in 1967, a group of families in Chelmsford and surrounding communities felt the need to establish a house of worship and religious school, and whereas in July 1967, articles of organization of Congregation Shalom were signed by Kevin H. White, then Secretary of State, and whereas it has been Congregation Shalom's mission to provide a place for Jewish identity, learning, and spirituality, and to bring bridges to the broader community, participate in interfaith partnerships, and serve as a voice for social justice. And whereas Congregation Shalom has grown to include member families from Chelmsford, Westford, Groton, Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as the greater Merrimack Valley and southern New Hampshire, and whereas Congregation Shalom continues to contribute to civic, educational, religious, and charitable endeavors in the town of Chelmsford, now therefore we, the Chelmsford Board of Selectmen, recognize and celebrate the history and achievements of the Congregation Shalom on the occasion of this 50th year of incorporation. Happy anniversary. Signed on this 20th day of May 2017 by Selectmen Pat Wojcik, Laura Merrill, Kenneth Lefebvre, George Dixon, Glenn Diggs, and signed by the town clerk and with the seal, Honorina Maloney.
Thank you. And timing is great. Our veterans agent just walked in. You want to catch your breath? Are you ready?
I was coming from a meeting in Lowell. Excuse me.
And you ran all the way from Lowell. Okay, and Regina's going to tell us about Memorial Day.
Oh, excuse me. Hi, everybody. This year, Memorial Day, our annual Memorial Day Parade will be in North Chelmsford, and it's going to be Monday, May 29th at 10 a.m. step-off. We're going to step off on the American Legion Post 313, which is at 90 Groton Road. So everybody's invited, and if you're a scout group, Boy Scout, Girl Scout, and you want to be in the parade, please assemble about 9:15ish, excuse me, at the American Legion Post. We're going to proceed down Groton Road. We're going to loop around. We'll end at the Common, Vinyl Square Common, where we will have a program. And it'll be very nice, and the weather should be good. And we have a plan B if it really rains like it did last year when we had to cancel it, which was very unfortunate. But so after the ceremony, after the program, the community will be invited across the street to town, let me get the correct name, Chelmsford Community Center at North Town Hall for ice cream and cake.
Okay.
And everyone's welcome. So Monday, come out Monday at 10 a.m. in North Chelmsford.
Okay, and Laura will read your proclamation, and you can take that with you.
Town of Chelmsford Proclamation in recognition of Memorial Day, May 29th, 2017. Whereas Memorial Day, May 29th, 2017, has been set aside as the annual day of remembrance for those men and women who served our nation during times of conflict as members of the armed forces, and whereas we pause this day to especially remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice of their lives to defend the freedoms of all Americans, and whereas we honor the service and sacrifice of all veterans of all wars and conflicts, and join the living veterans of the town of Chelmsford in expressing our gratitude to their fallen comrades. Now therefore, we, the Chelmsford Board of Selectmen, do hereby proclaim Monday, May 29th, 2017, as Memorial Day 2017, and join all residents of the town in recognizing the deceased veterans of Chelmsford on this solemn day. Signed this 22nd day of May 2017 by the Chelmsford Board of Selectmen, Pat Wojcik, Laura Merrill, Kenneth Lefebvre, George Dixon, Glenn Diggs, and signed by the town clerk, Honorina Maloney.
Great.
Thank you.
We'll see you Monday. Thank you very much. Okay, we're now at the open session part of our meeting. Is there anybody that would like to address the board about any topic right now?
Hello. Lynn Marcella, and with me is Jeff Hardy, and we're just here to give a little bit of an update on the 4th of July parade, as it will be here in probably, 5 to 6 short weeks. So we just wanted to remind everybody that the parade is being held on Tuesday, July 4th at 10 a.m. And we'd just like to announce that we have some wonderful sponsors again this year, and we would like to thank them publicly because they are the main ones that pay for this parade, and it does cost quite a bit to put this parade on, so we truly appreciate their support. This year being the 50th consecutive parade for the town of Chelmsford, we have special gold sponsors, and we have 2 businesses in town that have stepped up to be gold sponsors, and it's Blake Funeral Home and Dolan Funeral Home. In addition, red sponsors are Enterprise Bank, Charles and Jean Parley, Lowell 5, Trinity EMS, which John Chemley, we thank you. John's in the audience. Thank you for your support again. Chelmsford Business Association, Ferreira's Towing, Linda and John Harrington, and thank you, John, for stepping up again. Republic Services, Northern Bank, Circle Health, Chelmsford Lumber, and new neighbors over here at the old CVS building, Med Express Urgent Care, has stepped up this year to be sponsors of the parade. We'd also like to discuss a little bit about the banners that everybody has seen out in the center, and they're going up at Drum Hill this week, I believe, and Vinyl Square. Our committee has worked hard selling a lot of these banners. In particular, Donna Sargent has coordinated it this year, and we have some great 50th commemorative banners. We didn't get them all up this weekend because we had a little printing issue, but they should be up by the end of the week. And the team also hung the American flag, so it looks really nice. A reminder to everybody that our parade marshals this year are the Chelmsford Elks, and as most people know, the Elks ran the parade for many, many years before our group took it over, and we just wanted to be able to thank them for everything they did for all these years, so they will be the parade marshals this year. We are looking for organizations, neighbors, friends, people to put together floats, marching units. You know, we'd like this to be a real big one for the 50th, so if you are interested, our website is chelmsfordparade.org, .net, and .com. Please send in an application. They're on our website. And just a reminder to everybody that no tax money goes to pay for this parade. We raise all these funds, and it costs in excess of $60,000. The bands don't come for nothing. We have to pay all these groups to come. So it's, you know, it's quite an expense, and we appreciate the support from the town. We will not be doing our raffle mailing this year because it just seemed to dwindle over the past few years, but we will be sending a mailing out just telling everybody about the details of the parade, and also if they want to make donations, we've set up a PayPal account on our website, and our address will be there if people want to mail checks to help support the parade. I think, Jeff, you want to say a couple more things?
I think it's kind of ironic you did the proclamation for the Congregation Shalom that started 50 years ago in July, which was when the parade was brought back online, was 50 years ago in July. So that was kind of a nice cohesive thing. And then having Regina here, obviously, her parade, we follow her parade, so we followed Regina again today. We thank her. I mean, without the veterans, we wouldn't be having any parades any day. And without her, people like Regina, you know, they don't get recognized nearly enough, and we thank her for all her work. Couple other things. As I mentioned the first time we came in front of you, and Ken, you weren't here, congratulations, and this is your official first time dealing with us, and we hope that we will see you on the 4th marching with us. I had mentioned the possibility that we were going to do a concert on the Common. Well, it has come together. On July 2nd, which is the Sunday evening, we are going to be putting on a concert with the band No Static, and they play the music of Steely Dan. They're a 10-piece band, horn section. They're fantastic. I've contracted with Audio East up in North Chelmsford, who does staging and sound equipment, and they're going to be setting up a stage and all the sound for us. This concert's going to go from 6 to about 9:30. It's free of charge. We're going to get some flyers out. I'll get on telemedia, but we really want to get a nice crowd down there. So, you know, we want to get the buzz going now and let people know that the sun will come out and stay out.
And
So-
hopefully not be 90.
I'll be okay with 90 over this. You know, and just going back to the sponsors a little bit, you know, and we say this over, and as Lynn mentioned, it costs money to put this on, and we take nothing from the taxpayers, but it's not done without the support of some many, many amazing people, especially two of the gentlemen in this room, John Chumley and John Harrington, who continuously had stepped up for us year after year. And I also want to give a special thanks to Ferrera Towing. We bring the tanks and some of the equipment, old war equipment in from the Collins Foundation. And where are they? Down in Stowe?
Yes. Yeah.
It's a lot to truck these things up. Ferrera gives us their services. They pay their men overtime. They ask nothing in return from us. And I wanted to just give them a little shout out. These guys are great. They give back to this town, and I hope people appreciate all the efforts they put in. And speaking of appreciating efforts, as Lynn and I've said, we're getting off the committee. A few of us are, after 11 years, stepping down. And we wanted to say thank you to a lot of people, but there's one person in particular that we want to recognize who has been incredible to this committee, a dear friend, and spent many long nights, late nights, long meetings, and I just would like to read this. The Chelmsford Parade Committee would like to acknowledge Paul Cohen for his years of guidance, support, and friendship. Paul, thank you so much for everything you did for us.
And I think I'd like to add also, not just attending meetings, Paul has been up on ladders, hanging banners, hanging flags, you know, anything we need. He's been such a support, and I don't think we could have been as successful without him behind us. We truly appreciate everything.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, anybody, about the parade? You'll all be there, right? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we still are in open session. Does anybody else want to address the committee about any topics this evening? Okay, set it out. All right, thank you. We'll go on to committee vacancies. Laura?
Okay. Committee vacancies as of 5/22/2017. There's one unexpired term on the Civic Committee for 3 years. Up to 22 members for a 3-year term ending 6/30/2019 for the Cultural Council. There are 2 3-year terms and 1 unexpired term for the Energy Conservation Committee. There's 1 3-year term for the Tree Committee. Committee applications are available online and can be at www.townofchelmsford.us.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is a license for the American Legion. I don't see anybody here from the Legion. I had a couple of questions about this, so I would like to table it until our next meeting, or we can get answers. Everybody okay with that?
Do we have enough time? Yeah.
Yeah, we will. Okay. So we'll go on to reports and presentations, and first up is our ambulance contract renewal. So, Mr. Chemley, if you'd like to come up and talk a little bit about your services?
Thank you. Good evening. On behalf of Trinity and my company, I'd like to say thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. I have with me tonight our Director of IT and also our Director of our Dispatch Center in Lowell, John Kelly. I have with us our Business Development Director, Chris Dick, and I have my business partner, Gary Seppi, as well. And I want to thank also the Fire Chief and Police Chief for coming here supporting us tonight. So, Paul, thank you so much for everything, Mr. Manager. We appreciate the time to come before you. As you know, our contract is expiring June 30th of this year, and we are up for renewal, should you so desire. And I just want to give you a brief history of what we've been doing and what our company is about. As we say today, 23 years later, 1994 is when we received our first 911 contract here in Chelmsford. So, as you know, we've been working closely with the chiefs, the two chiefs. There are many initiatives that we've started here in the last couple of years. One of them is the opiate situation. As you know, it's a very poor epidemic that's happening here in not only our region and our state, but also countrywide. And we have a head start on what's happening in the opiate industry, how we can stop it. We have a new development here at Trinity that is called First Watch, and John Kelly's here to describe it with you.
Hello. So as John said, First Watch is it's a program we purchased about a year and a half ago to help with the opiate epidemic. So what it does is it looks through all of our patient care reports. Whenever an ambulance crew goes out and takes care of a patient, there's certain markers in that indicate that an opiate overdose just happened. Okay, so this system, First Watch, will send automatic notifications off to the chiefs, to us, to public health officials, to so that you're aware of when events are happening. It also ties in for the last 72 hours, so we're able to kind of look a little bit longer window than just right now. So on St. Patrick's Day, as an example, we had a situation where in the general vicinity, so we tie in Dracut, Chelmsford, and Lowell together because we provide service for those three towns. And if an incident happens on Stedman Street on the Lowell side of the line, what's really the difference of impact for the people of Chelmsford? It's so close anyway. So St. Patrick's Day, we had an incident. We had 6 patients that were near critical respiratory arrest in about 15 hours. So we kind of put an alert out, and it's a public notification system. So we can utilize First Watch to tell about the individual events, and then when a bigger event happens in the area, to try to provide information to the chiefs on an earlier basis.
This is just one example of the partnership that we formed in the last few years with the Chelmsford Police and Chelmsford Fire Departments. We were the 8th company in the country to have First Watch, and we are now one of the few ambulance companies in the entire country to share it with other ambulance company, with other 911 systems. We have towns across the region now that are calling us, Haverhill, Dracut, Groveland. We have towns that are calling us going, hey, what are you guys doing? How can you help us? How can you share this with us? And at no cost, we share all the data and all the stuff from their own, all the information, from their own ambulance calls. And that way they can formulate either task forces like the co-op program in Lowell, which is a great program, but they have to get ahead of this epidemic, and we're part of the team who puts this together. So we also wanted to tell you that we are answering in your town probably 2,600 calls a year as far as transports go. It's a very busy system, and we formed a bunch of partnerships with Chelmsford High School. We donated money for their Narcan, the mock car crash for prom season, as you know, that we just had it about a week ago. We have been part of the parade committee, and we have done a lot for the Veterans Memorial Park, as you know, Madam Chair. We do Cub Scout visits, sporting events, all your varsity football games, Relay for Life, all the stuff that's going on in the town. The golf tournaments, the Chelmsford Police Athletic League, St. John the Evangelist Church, the Paul Center. We do a lot of stuff in your community, and the partnerships that we form with the Fire and Police Department has really boded well for us, and we would just like to continue that over the next 3 years if we could. And we're here to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Chemley? I would second what you said, Mr. Chemley, about being a partner for the town. I mean, we see you at so many events, and you always make your ambulances available whenever we have any type of event where there might be a need for anything like that. And I think the service you provide is definitely second to none. So, and we have received letters of support from both the police chief and the fire chief. I don't know if anybody else had anything to add.
I just had a question. With all of the community sharing, what kind of information are you sharing when we start talking about security and data, you know, and how much information are you storing in this system versus that's personal?
We store a lot of information in our system, but what we can communicate to the outside world is a different story because of HIPAA.
Exactly.
And the violations, and et cetera, which can be up to $250,000 per incident. So we are very cognizant of that fact. John?
Yeah, we've contacted a lot with the American Ambulance Association. We have a lot of lawyers that we've contacted to make sure that the HIPAA is compliant. So basically, the kind of the information that the chiefs see is a narrative, so it tells the story of what happened, but there's no indication of who the patient is. There's no address provided. There's no date of birth, no age, no social security number, no patient information whatsoever.
So.
I would get.
Thank you. Well, I'm sure that a lot of our listeners would be happy to hear that. So thank you very much for that.
You're probably aware that we have a new project going in the center of town, in the Brick area.
Yes, sir.
And do you have a contingency plan how you'll service that area, you know, with the same service you've had in the past?
Well, actually, we do have a few irons in the fire on that. We're negotiating in a spot right now in the center of town that we would really like to put together. And I can't say too much about it right now. But we have 2 or 3 different areas that we're looking at, but the spot we're looking at on North Road is something that we're really looking forward to getting into. So it's going to take a lot of work, but we're ready to do it.
So if that does come to pass, you'll come and tell us what it is you have planned, so we can provide that information to the public?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, being no further comments, do we have a motion on this contract?
I make a motion to approve the continuation of the Trinity contract for an additional 3 years.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Congratulations. Thank you.
Very much. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Yep.
Okay, next on our agenda is the proposal by the police chief for a 4-way stop sign. And I thought, there he is.
Yeah, just to give you the genesis of this, since the last meeting, we received correspondence from an Eamon Sullivan of 10 Harold Street, who wrote on behalf of concerned parents in their neighborhood, and basically we turned the matter over to Chief Spinney, who, working with Traffic Officer Paul Richardson and others, researched this matter and comes forward with this recommendation for you, because, just to give Ken an idea, Ken, in order to, the Board of Selectmen is responsible for posting and approving locations of stop signs and such in the community, so that's why we have to have a formal action on a request like this.
Good evening, members of the board, Mr. Manager. Like the town manager just said, we got some correspondence from some residents on Harold Street with regards to the Harold Birch four-way intersection. It's worth noting it's one of the only four-way intersections in that entire Kensington Drive region. It's also worth noting that there is absolutely no signage there whatsoever. So it's problematic. Anybody not familiar with that area does not know who has the right-of-way. So after reading the concerns from residents with regards to young children and whatnot in the area, along with the fact that Harold Street is a direct ingress from Warren Ave to the Kensington Drive area, and it is a busy roadway, one of the busiest in that immediate area. My official recommendation is to make that intersection a four-way all-stop. We did the similar procedure up in the Varney area last year. The fact that it's in a neighborhood setting concerns me. I'm trying to eliminate all possibility of driver error. And as a side note, if it can reduce speeds in the neighborhood, making people obviously have to come to a stop, that is a added benefit.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the chief about this intersection, this stop sign?
I'm not familiar with this property. Is this similar to the Varney Park kind of neighborhood area?
Yeah, it's similar in that it's a four-way intersection in the middle of a neighborhood, and it has no markings at all. So it's not a I wouldn't even call it a secondary roadway. It's really a neighborhood setting. And the vagueness is what concerned me, as far as really no signage whatsoever. So I would lean towards being extra cautious and making it an all-way stop.
I would have to agree. I heavily supported the change we made in the Varney neighborhood, and if it's similar to that, then I would definitely think that that would be needed.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve a four-way stop sign at Harold Street and Kensington Drive. And Birch.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, next on our agenda is the Center Water District presentation. Who's,
Good evening. The Chelmsford Water District would like to do their presentation, the annual presentation, and with us tonight I have John Harrington, Ron Whitmore, our new business director, treasurer Lisa Velchez, and Todd Melanson, the environmental compliance manager. Let's see, Bill. So again, we make this presentation every year, and we like to bring it up to date with some of the things that have happened and gone through. So the first slide that's up there. Okay. Okay. And this is our this is the whole town, but in white is the Chelmsford Water District. As you can see, it's a little larger than up there to the north, and the orange is North Chelmsford, and down in the blue is East Chelmsford. We have 20 ground water wells. We can supply up to 3.75 million gallons a day. That's what we're allowed by the permitting. We have 3 treatment plants, 3 booster stations, the 5 storage tanks, which is more than most towns and cities has for water storage. We have over 190 miles of water main, 8,600 services, and 1,500 hydrants that we're responsible for in our district. And we have our megawatt solar array out at the Crooked Spring Treatment Plant. Second slide is more of a water conservation and how our water gets used in the district. As you can see, 83% is used for residential, and the smaller amounts and portions are for commercial and residential, industrial, and municipality. The next slide here is the 65 gallon per day residential usage. As you can see from the years here, our residential gallons per day per usage is down below the 65 that's required. Our UAW has continually gone down over the years. We had 56 this past year for our annual statistical report. As for water management, this is our basin, and again, just back to our withdrawals. So we have two basins in the Chelmsford Water District. We get our water supply from both the Merrimack Basin and the Concord Basin. And our Merrimack Basin comes off our Crooked Spring Treatment Plant and the Smith Street Water Treatment Plant. So we have 1.73 million that we're able to withdraw for that section of town, just off our high service end. And the Concord Basin, River Neck, we have 2.02. That's along the Billerica Road corridor. And then to further illustrate our water management, here are our 20 wells that we have. This is our raw water supplies. You can see there's a little diversity there in the amount of water that we withdraw from any particular well. But we have redundancy. We have enough wells that we can put some to rest so that we can turn around and get our water table back up in some instances, and allows us to take some offline to do seasonal maintenance and redevelopment of wells, especially with the drought we had. Our next slide is the Concord Basin, and those particular wells that supply off the Concord Basin are over on Canal Street, Turnpike, River Neck 1 and 2, which are right at the treatment plant, and Turnpike Well. We also have the Mill Roads. There's 3 of them over there that come right by the Water District and go through a transmission line of raw supply right to the River Neck treatment plant, so the treated water goes out from there. The Merrimack Basin, the majority of the water comes from our Crooked Spring Water Treatment Plant, and that consists of the Crooked Spring 1 and 2 wells that are there, along with the Meadowbrook number 3. Those come directly from the power supply at the treatment plant. Meadowbrooks 1 and 2 are alternate supplies for us, and then we take a small portion of it from Jordan Road. And then seasonally, we use the Smith Street to augment high usage during the summer. So one of the bigger concerns has been the tracking of our cumulative precipitation. So the first one that was popped up there is the average for the Northeast region. That's, yeah, right there, Paul. That's, so that's what the average we should see for precipitation, right around 43 inches a year. The next one is our 2012, and as you can see, we were down on our water. So we had actually, we're at a point where we're starting into a drought situation in 2012. And then in 2013, we had a nice recovery, so we didn't have any large factors that put us into a level 3 with watering. In 2014, we ran just about even, so we were pretty standard there. And then as we move into 15 and 16, you can see that we ran into 2 consecutive years with well below the normal for precipitation, which led us to the situation that the whole state was in with the drought. And then here in 2017, as you can see, we've only got the first 4 months up there through April, but you can see we're well above the average at the moment. But that's what took us out of the state coming back out and then lifting the drought conditions that we were under the watch. This here is a map of the USGS monitoring wells. There are a bunch of them throughout the whole state. And as you can see, the little dots down here are where we were with our water table. And this one particular one that they're showing here is out of Westford. That's the closest one that the USGS uses. But as you can see, all the levels here that during the months of June, July, August of last year were so low. And we didn't come up until we got to January and February, when we got into this year, that you'll start to see that we came to actually back in a green, which is normal. And this is the map of the groundwater conditions throughout the whole state. So they have these monitoring spots out here. You'll see the indications are here where we were low. And this is what we went through in July of 2016. And as you know, the state put a watch on and put a drought thing and condition in 2016 in July. And the drought management, again, this is the map that was put out. This is the Drought Management Task Force, and you can see the conditions we were under in July of, in August of 2016. And this one is actually it says May 1st. The state lifted their drought warning, and now we're all in white. Everything's back to normal. So with that, we went to level 1. And there's our summer water management program that the district's had for 14 years. We are starting at level 1 because we're out of the drought situation. Everything's back at normal right now. We're actually 8 inches above normal at the moment for what we were last year, but we're still 13 inches below the total. If you take in what we had in 2012 and 2015 and 16, we're still 13 inches below the norm. So we have to keep a close monitoring on that for not only our reservoirs, but also for our water withdrawal, our wells, and the depth that we have for wells and taking our supply in. So it's in effect till now. So what can we do to save on our water? Well, these are some of the facts on the leaks that we have. How much a small leak will cost you if you run you with just a tub. The dripping of a shower. The total for the whole country would be 1 trillion gallons of water if you looked at the leaks that we have that we maintain. So what we really advise people to do is to check for the interior leaks in their homes and stuff, because they are there. And you're looking at 10% on the total there. And then how much water do we use outside water? And you can see the outside watering is over 30% of our water. And then a toilet leak is 19%. That's what's used in the shower, 12, faucets, clothing, using the washing machine. And then we have those unaccounted for leaks that people have inside their home that they don't realize they have. And 4 for others. And then the other thing to look for is when you get new toilets and new refrigerators and things, you'll see a water sense symbol on them. It's to save so that you're not using a toilet that's putting out 6-7 gallons a minute every time you flush it. Get the flush thermometers, and you'll see in your packets there that we presented you guys with that there's a couple of things in there you could use, the dye to check to see if your toilet's leaking. A lot of people don't realize their toilet leaks, and we get intermittent leaks. And sometimes it'll go for a period of time, and then when they get their water bill, they're kind of shocked that that's the water they use. And this here is just some of the overheads that we put out there with our drone of our tanks. So this here, the Turnpike tank here. This one here is the Lock Road tank that was put in 2012. And over here is Amble Road. And this here is a Crooked Spring treatment plant with a solar array that we had put in 2010. And then the treatment system itself. These are green sand filters. These are Riverneck and Crooked Spring. The one over here to the far right is a membrane filtration plant. This was a package plant brought in to go into the Smith Street treatment plant that went online in 1964, 65. And this here is the chemical storage room where we have everything encompassing case in there. And that's the Crooked Spring treatment plant. So what have we been doing? The water facts. The water district has spent some period of time doing water main extensions, and this past year we finished Arrowhead and Slay Road. Arrowhead Circle to Slay Road, it was a directional drill. A lot of the jobs we're trying to do is we're trying to get ties into dead-end lines, and we're looping them. And we're running into our situation where in some places now with technology we're able to use directional drill to go through and under railroad tracks and through wetlands and to tie in our water mains. And then we had a big water replacement job we did in Carriage Drive. We had a lot of breaks over the last 4 years up in Carriage Drive. So we, instead of, when the town put it on the agenda to repave and do Carriage Drive, we decided to go in there and replace all the water main, or 1,000-foot water main there, and work in conjunction with having the road repaved so we're not tearing a new road up. Crooked Spring Water Treatment Plant, we did the aeration cleaning. We'll be getting ready to do the green sand filter change this fall or early next spring. And we took Turnpike well, we had a satellite well. It used to be just a pump and dump where we took water from Turnpike and put it in number 1 to clean. So we got a permission from the state to put it and convert it over to a full well capacity. So now we have a redundancy at Turnpike where if we lose one of the wells, we can still use the other one. And another known fact was the maximum flow last year was June 20th. We used over 4 million gallons a day. So again, we were back in the situation, there wasn't enough water and people were trying to get ready for 4th of July, trying to keep the lawns up, and everyone was using the water. In the meantime, we didn't have the water supply for our wells, but we also wanted them there for our tanks, our storage reservoirs, and for fire protection and public health. And again, the cost of a gallon of water for the Chelmsford water is half a cent. It hasn't changed. And this is just an example of what we've been going through here with the water main extensions using the horizontal drilling. So it's a process of putting an entry hole, and then they drill through and they put the pipe on the other side, they retrieve it and pull it back through, and then we connect it up on both ends. So this happened to be the job we were doing out at Arrowhead and Arrowhead Circle and Slade Road this past fall, winter. And then we have our annual consumer confidence report. We'll have the notice that was out, that was available on the bills that just went out. That you can get at the Chelmsford Water District online at www.chelmsfordwater.com. So with that, we presented that, and everything was fine with the things. And then we have our solar array. And so I'll put these numbers together. It's off of, since we put it online in 2010, we've saved and removed 7,750,000 pounds of carbon dioxide emissions. If you had a car, it would be worth 8,412,346 miles worth of car emissions, and enough power to produce, for an average home, 514 years. The most impressive part about it is, well, we had a great year in 2016, obviously, with the snowfall. We had 64 inches, but none of our panels were covered, so we were able to get the sun to work out at Crooked Spring for the entire year. So we were able to get 612,000 kilowatt hours. Our total array to this point is 3,330,000. The solar production for dollars saved at Crooked Spring is 102,000 this year, and we also picked up another 90,000 or so off a contract we have with a company called Desiree. It's a Winchendon Farm solar plant we have out there, and so we sell back the power that we have from our other treatment plants and our wells to them and save 20%. And with that, for any questions?
Okay, anybody have any questions for Mr. Delaney? Glenn?
Have you found, let's say in recent years, any difference in what you're finding as far as contaminants in the water? Has that changed at all over the years?
Yeah, contaminants are changing because of the regulations and because of the way they can test, the levels they go down to. We haven't had anything that's struck us that we have to address at the moment, but we have our the THMs and HA5s and the chlorine residual we have. It's a balancing act with our system, but we haven't had anything that's come striking back up to us yet as far as the contaminants we have. Let's Todd, do you know of any that we got to worry about other than no?
We passed the UCMR. There's something called the UCMR 3 rule, which is unregulated contaminant monitoring rule. It's an EPA required. They do it every 3 years where they look for up and coming contaminants, and we've gone through those. And they're actually, any results are in the CCR that we put out, but we don't have anything that has any sort of trigger or even close to a trigger.
The town's going to be spending some millions of dollars on stormwater.
Mm-hmm.
Do you expect that's going to impact your operation at all?
I don't think so. I think more than anything, I think we're going to be on a better toolage here, because we're going to get the town's going to be looking at what's going into the sewer, so it's going to be caught before anything gets in there. So I think it's going to work more to an advantage for the water district than it is going to be a harm.
Less than 0.5 cent?
What the 0.5 cent is, that's your drinking water. That's the supply. I don't know if it's going to be 0.5 cent for what we have for your stormwater, but,
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any projects or, that you're planned for the current year?
Yeah, we're doing, actually, we purchased property over, back in 2010 from Harold Kesey, so we have, we're doing a directional drill where we gotta go before conservation, first of all, but we have a project going from Wiggins, and it's coming across over to Woodlawn, and from there, Woodlawn is gonna be tied in with Ideal and Myland. All 4 of those roads are dead-end lines, so we're gonna be able to loop those back through by doing a directional drill. So those are some of the larger planned ones. We also have the storage tank at Turnpike. We had that emptied and painted interiorly about 5 years ago, and now we're looking at having that done on the outside. It hasn't been painted since 1985. So those are two major things we have going on. And
Are there any other areas of town that have water main issues that you see where you might have to go in and replace sections?
yeah, it's all cast iron. We're looking at 60, 70 years old with some of the piping, so we're trying to stay one step ahead of whatever the town is looking at to do roads over at the moment within areas. The dead-end looping is a water quality issue that we're trying to address.
Mhm.
So by looping that and getting the water to flow in either direction, it gives us better fire protection, but also it's good for it's good for the residents and the homes. There is a lot of water main in town still that's undersized because it was never, when they first put the water in, they thought 6-inch and 8-inch water main was enough, but it's not, so we're trying to spread that out. And the other thing that we're doing in an infrastructure with the water district is we're changing gates and hydrants. Some of the hydrants are old, a lot of those that don't even have gates on them. So we have to shut down a section of road and then replace the hydrant, put a gate on it. And there's other sections that ran for, blocks and miles without putting inline gates in. So we have inline gates we've been putting in as well. We just did one just on Chelmsford Street. You probably saw it down by the CVS.
Mhm.
So that we could put it in there and separate from the Wilson nursing home over there, the elderly housing.
Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Delaney?
That's going to be the fastest Chelmsford Center Water District report in
You like that,
10
huh?
years.
That's it. They didn't want me to go take my time with it.
Yeah, and we all know you know what you're talking about, Bobby. I know it. You got it, Whitey.
So
All right.
thank you
Well,
so much.
thank you very much for having
And
us.
thanks for bringing the water and
Okay, you're welcome.
the other gifts, and we'll see you next year. Thank you. Okay, next we have a public hearing on a local initiative project for a proposed affordable housing project for 7 units at 61 Carlisle Street. I don't see the applicant here. Paul, was he planning on being here, do you know?
Yes.
I saw him when I came in saw him in the hallway when I came in.
Okay, he is here. Is he coming? Hey, Mr. Harvey, if you want to give a presentation about what it is you're proposing to develop on Carlisle Street.
Thank you, Chairman Wojcik. My name is William Harvey. I'm here on behalf of the Thomas Marshall Estates Development relative to 61 Carlisle Street. An application was submitted to the Board of Selectmen on May 2nd. This is a request to the town of Chelmsford for endorsement of a proposed 7-unit rental project under the local initiative program, which I will be seeking for endorsement tonight.
Two of those, Billy, are already in that,
Excuse me?
in the existing house right now? Is that what?
The 7-unit proposal, I'll get into it further. The existing house is a historic house. It's built in 1753. The proposal is to turn the existing house into a 2-bedroom, a 2-unit dwelling, 1-bedroom unit and a 2-bedroom unit. And the barn would be replaced with a residential structure that would be consistent as a barn-like structure on the property, which would be 5 residential rental units 2 of which would be affordable, and there'd be 2-bedroom units for the affordables. Now, as you're aware, I submitted my complete application, which is in compliance with the rules of the LIP, which is indexed to the letters of support, the community outreach notification to the legal abutters, memorandum to all the town departments, developer profile with the project summary, narrative of need, benefit to the community. I've also provided excerpts of the affordable housing plan of 2005, 11, and most recently, the 2017 analysis of the zoning conformity and zoning relief that would be sought before the Zoning Board of Appeals. You've also have a conceptual site plan of the property, which shows the existing house and also the proposed dwelling, as well as the existing barn that's on the property. In addition, you've been provided the architectural renderings of the proposed building, the tabulation of the proposed affordable and market rate units. I've also put on the, within the application, the bus route of the Lowell Regional Transportation Authority, which is bus route number 13, which is directly in front of the barn right now, which would be the proposed 5-unit building.
How many square feet in that 5-unit building?
The square feet would be 3,600 square feet. It would be, the footprint would be 1,800 square feet times 2. And currently, the footprint of the existing barn is 3,060 square feet according to the town assessor's office. So the footprint of the proposed building is pretty much about 50–60% of the footprint that's currently on the property. So it would be dramatically reduced in size. Now, the Thomas Marshall Estates Development LLC proposes to convert the existing Thomas Marshall House circa 1753 into a 2-family home and replace the existing barn and construct an architecturally appropriate residential building at 61 Carlisle Street. The existing Marshall House will contain a 2-bedroom unit and a 1-bedroom unit. The newly constructed second dwelling will contain 2-bedroom affordable units, it's 2, and 3 1-bedroom market rate units, and all 7 units will count towards the town number of subsidized housing inventory. Eligible units is determined by the Department of Housing and Community Development. The project will be known as the Thomas Marshall Estates. The developer is requesting that the Board of Selectmen endorse this project under the local initiative program. On January 17th, 2017, the Chelmsford Housing Advisory Board met and reviewed the proposed 40B development at 61 Carlisle Street. The board, in its decision dated February 14th, 2017, voted to support the project. The project was reviewed and supported also by the Executive Director of the Chelmsford Housing Authority by letter dated January 4th, 2017. And furthermore, the project was reviewed by the Chelmsford Historic Commission. That letter was submitted today by Chairman Deb Taverner, dated May 22nd, and the Historic Commission was unanimously in support of this project. While the Thomas Marshall Estates is certainly consistent with the general recommendations of the Housing Production Plan, it has a number of much more specific attributes which makes it attractive and well differentiated from other proposals under 40B. The 2011 Housing Production Plan, specifically Section 5.3.13, recommends that redevelopment of underutilized properties, and Section 5.4.6 encourages local initiative program applications that are consistent with the Housing Production Plan. Now, I mentioned the 2011, and not the 2017 specifically, because this project was approved by the Housing Advisory Board prior to the endorsement of the 2017 plan. The proposal project will be on the corner of
Thomas Street and Carlisle Street, directly across the street from the Lowell Regional Transportation Authority public bus stop, and directly across the street from the East Chelmsford School that I know you're all familiar with, and also directly across the street from the renovated public park. The Thomas Marshall Estates project, with 1 unit for each 6,635 square feet of land area, will have a density comparable to the Simeon Spalding development at 75 North Road, for which the planning board approved an increase in units from a total of 7 to 8 in 2015, which has 1 unit for each 5,000 square feet of land. And the recently approved 40B project located at 73 Dalton Road consists of 5 units, 2 affordable, with 1 unit for each 4,749 square feet of land. It's also important to note that the completed B Street Place affordable rental duplex project, consisting of 3 bedrooms per unit, constructed and owned and managed by myself, is 1 unit for each 5,000 square feet of land. That project was also endorsed by this board, and a comprehensive permit was granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals. Now, the development of this land in particular will have no adverse effect on the environment or the neighborhood, as there are no wetlands on or in the vicinity of the lot. All necessary utilities, included public water, public sewer, are available, as well as there won't be any traffic impact. Furthermore, the Thomas Marshall Estates, with 2-bedroom affordable units and 5 market rate units, will not just meet the statutory 20% affordable requirement, but significantly exceed it with 29%. The 29% affordable level is consistent with and likely exceeds what was contemplated in the local initiative project process by the Board of Selectmen's policies and procedures, where it's stated that the board shall normally require a higher percentage of affordable units than is required by statute, and developers are encouraged to propose the maximum feasible percentage. The 2 affordable units will be very much needed rental units within the town, with a rent that is within reach of those in the target income range. Finally, the proposed Thomas Marshall Estates will be developed entirely through private funds of the developer. The Thomas Marshall Estates, the developer is not seeking any subsidies whatsoever through the Community Preservation Act or any forms of local funding. As you're aware, I submitted letters from the Chelmsford Housing Authority, Housing Advisory Board, and the Chelmsford Historic Commission, where there is a representative today that will speak after I'm done. Now, with regards to the zoning in the area, be tab 7, the analysis of zoning conformity and exceptions and waivers sought. There's very minor exceptions that will be sought. Obviously, the use in this area, it's zoned RB, although the area in which it isn't consistent with typical RB zoning, as I'll go on further with my presentation and discuss that. There'll be a waiver relative to the Thomas Marshall House, in the fact that it's pre-existing non-conforming with the minimum front yard, which currently has 27.5 feet. The requirement's 40. It's pre-existing non-conforming, so that's not an issue. With regards to the new structure, the minimum front yard, the requirement with the town bylaws is 40 feet. The plan that's in front of you, it provides 19 feet. As well as the minimum rear yard, town requirements are 30 feet, and I'm providing 18.7. As I said earlier, the footprint of the new building will be significantly smaller than what is presently there, which is pretty much of a 3,000 square foot footprint of the present barn. Now, one thing I believe that is exceptionally helpful to this board, and it should be to any of the abutters or any neighbors that have any concerns, is sometimes developers come in and they propose a project, but you really don't know exactly what this project is going to look like. Now,
on tabulation 9, I have the design of the building as well as colored photographs. So this board, as well as the neighbors, will know exactly what this building will look like. It's more or less, I'm copying the exact same building that's at the corner of Dalton and North Road, which is 75 North Road. It's known as the Simeon Spalding Farm apartment building, which consists of 5 units. That project came out very, very nice. It's consistent with the neighborhood. It's consistent with the historic feel of the town. In addition, with regards to the construction funds that were granted for the construction of the building, those funds are also utilized to renovate the historic Simeon Spalding House. And that was all done in conjunction with the participation through the Chelmsford Historic Commission. Now, I did take there is a photograph here that I once presented a while back to the planning board where I told the planning board this would be my conceptual design. And did I follow through? I think I did. I think what you see here and what is now at the site is very much identical, if not better. And in addition, I think the neighbors were very pleased about, they reached out to me. Some neighbors wanted some more landscaping, fencing, and I provided that as well as much more with regards to this development. So that's what we're looking to do here at the corner of North and Marshall Street, is redevelop the land. Currently, we have an old existing house. It's been in the family for a significant amount of time. And I think what's really important too is with my purchase of this house, there was great thought and deliberation by the family in order to sell this house to me. Many people sent offers into the house, full asking price, as I did. But they wanted to sell this house to somebody that would take care of the house, preserve it, not destroy it, and enhance the property. And by doing so, I had to show the owners all the properties I had in Chelmsford. And it was a lot of convincing in order for them to sell it to me. And they ended up selling it to me. And we do keep in contact. The owner wants to come up, go through the house and see it. So that's good. And also the owner realizes what I was doing with the property was to take down the barn. But the most important aspect of the property to the owners was to preserve the house, because the barn is in rough shape. In fact, the barn isn't even insured. It wasn't even allowed to be insured under my policy. But that was their main issue, was to preserve the integrity of the house. And that also is the main concern with the Chelmsford Historic Commission, which we've had several meetings. And I've also agreed with the Chelmsford Historic Commission that in decades to come, that the house will be preserved, and I've agreed to place a preservation restriction on the house. So if for any reason the house is ever sold, that the house would remain intact as it is today. Now, I know that the members of the board are familiar with the area, but sometimes there was discussion about that it's zoned RB, and the new 2017 housing production plan is not really in favor of multifamily dwellings in a residentially zoned district. However, as I said, this is a little bit different than what people may consider as residentially zoned. The fact that it's RB doesn't necessarily mean that it has all the significance and characteristics of a single-family residential neighborhood. And I'd like to point out with this map of the area that the area is certainly diverse. Number one is we have, as we all know, Christopher's Towing. Is obviously a towing yard in a RB district. 26 Marshall Street is right here, which is a massive building which is currently utilized as a commercial building.
I don't know what the exact use is, might be HVAC, but there's numerous commercial trucks there. 15 Marshall Street, I believe is located right here. That's currently utilized as a daycare with a sign out in the property indicating a daycare. 60 Carlisle Street, which is pretty much directly across the street from the barn. That's the old East School. That's currently utilized, I believe, as a private school. 71 Carlisle Street, which isn't depicted on the map, but it's further up the street, where there is 2 principal dwellings on a single-family lot. We have this area here, which is zoned residential. However, it's a cluster development, which more or less means that the developer was allowed to put the houses really close to each other, whereby they don't have the 40,000 square feet as most houses would need. In addition, there's a public park across the street, and obviously Carlisle Street is certainly, it's a main road. It certainly isn't a slowly driven road. It's pretty much, it's actually a dangerous road. There's directly across the street is the Lowell Regional Transportation Authority bus stop. And as I said earlier, the units are designated. The affordable units are designated in the brand-new building. And that will consist of two-bedroom units. And the historic Marshall House, that will be market rate. And what we do is we come down to a 29% affordable rental count. And I think what's noteworthy is that when the individual from the Department of Housing and Community Development actually toured the project that was recently approved for 40B, which was 73 Dalton Road, I believe Mr. Dixon was the representative for your board. He was there, and she really liked the idea of a very, very small complex which provided affordable housing in the town, as opposed to these huge developments, which is 100, 200 units, and you get thrown in some affordable units. I also had the opportunity to take her inside the units at 75 North Road and told her exactly what the units would look like, and she was very impressed that everything was top-notch in the apartment. Hardwood floors, stainless steel appliances, all the units were the same. Everything was top-notch, and obviously the buildings are well cared for. And I live right across the street, and I have a lot of pride in my properties, and I want them to look nice. And also, I want to make a showing before all the boards that I go before in this town that the projects that I do will be nice. That I'm not going to say that I'm going to do something, and it doesn't come out so nice. So I do have a lot of pride in that. I'll open it up to the board if there's any questions relative to this.
Really?
Good, good.
You mentioned rent, Bill. What is the rent going to be for both the affordable and the market rate? What are the rents?
The rents would vary. I don't have the specific figure. I think I do have the specific figure that's in the rental tabulation, which is the operating pro forma. But they're according to the state guidelines, and the which would be on the last page. 2 bedrooms. This is for the fiscal year 2016. 2-bedroom units would be 1,213. And I believe that would be including heat.
$1,200?
That's what they have downtown at Chelmsford.
Those for the
But
affordable?
that would be including the utilities, I believe.
That's the affordable?
Yes.
And the market rate would be how much?
The market rate would probably be $1,450, $1,500. That's about what I'm getting right now at 75 North Road. Based on the square footage, those rates are significantly lower than if you went to any other rental developments in the town of Chelmsford, significantly lower.
I'm seeking long-term tenants. I'm not seeking top rent, because what I've always found is you seek top rent, you're not going to have a tenant there for a long period of time. My philosophy has always been to my tenants, once you move in, this is the rent, and I'm not going up on the rent. All my tenants would say that. I don't go up on the rent. I want you to stay there. If I go up on the rent, somebody moves out, you're losing 1 month, 2 months in rent, you have to paint it, do all the repairs. So I'd rather have the rent affordable and have people staying in my properties and be happy.
How many square footage is a two-bedroom?
They're about 980. Even the one-bedroom's a 980. It's just, with regards to the one-bedrooms, it's a larger bedroom, which will reduce the other size of the bedroom, which would be designated as an office area, computer room.
Go on.
Based on your schematic, it appears that you have 2 parking spaces for every unit. Is that correct?
The parking spaces are in accordance with the zoning regulations.
Well, if you have 7 units and you have 14 parking spaces, that indicates 2 per unit, which seems to be, unlike a lot of things we've heard of lately where they come up extremely short of having 2 per unit.
Mhm.
Do you normally try to match it up that way?
I usually go by the recommendations of my engineer. And, for instance, sometimes I might have an issue with parking, but I always try not to. And if I get a single person as opposed to 2 people, I will most likely rent to a single person because it's 1 car. That's if there's a parking issue.
All right. A question, and I don't know if you're qualified to answer it. During your presentation, you talked about a certain statute concerning 2011 and 2017. I think you said 2011. And that this project fell under the 2011 version because of certain things. Without getting too technical or long-winded, can you tell me the difference between the 2011 and 2017?
Well, 2017 specifically states where that multifamily dwellings in a residential district are not looked upon favorably by the board, the Housing Advisory Board. And I think that the reason why is because they're really looking at the RB district as residential, meaning, for instance, here's 61 Carlisle, meaning like a neighborhood like this in the back, which is all single-family houses, residential. Nothing has ever been there as a 2-family. Nothing's ever been there as a non-conforming use. This property is significantly different. If I was trying to get into a regular neighborhood, let's say the Farms area, you're trying to do a 5-unit building, I think that's what they're looking at.
And the Housing Authority did approve this project. They did.
I had a meeting with David Hedison. He's in favor of it by the letter, as well as the Housing Advisory Board. And again, we've had several meetings with the Chelmsford Historic Commission, and they're in favor of it.
All right, again, based on this schematic, the new building is further from the street than the existing building. And I went up to look at it. The building that's there is a total eyesore in every way. I mean, it looks miserable. And, you know, if your new building were built on the foundation of the old building, which looks pretty bad, but if it were, would you then be in compliance from the standpoint of historically this was a pre-existing structure?
Well, it's a pre-existing.
Because you talked about the original, the house that's there.
Right.
Is non-conforming, but it historically was there.
Right.
And if you rebuilt on the existing foundation of the barn,
Right.
would you then still be in compliance?
I don't think you would, because then you...
I mean, I wouldn't want to build on it,
Right.
but I'm just saying from the standpoint of statute.
I don't think you would, because you'd be tearing down the barn, and you'd be building a new structure, which would have to be in compliance with all the zoning bylaws.
Okay.
Yeah, but as you're aware, if you've seen the barn is almost on the street.
Yeah,
very
it's like
dangerous.
on the street.
Exactly. So the new dwelling, we're pushing off to the left as far as we can for safety reasons, to get it off the street.
I try to look at it from the standpoint of what you're going to build up there. And it looked like it would blend in perfectly in its environment in terms of having it look like it was a farmhouse with a barn that was historic in terms of Chelmsford's historical past being farmland, and would do nothing but enhance all the neighbors' properties.
I agree.
And I just can't see anything wrong with it, other than, the setback and so forth. Are you anticipating coloring it the same way, or would it vary from what you have already put up on your
I would
code
probably just go with the exact same red.
scheme?
Yeah.
I like the project.
Laura, do you have any questions?
No, I'm happy with this project, and I also like that the affordable units, you converted those to 2 bedrooms. I think that, based on what I'm hearing, that's a big need in this community.
Thank you.
Yes.
Question, you had mentioned in the footprints shrinking, the height of the building, the same, higher, shorter?
I've never mentioned the existing building, but I'm sure it would be, I don't think it would be any higher than what's there. It's quite a tall building.
I would agree with the comment that, to put affordable housing in smaller clusters, I think lends it to be less noticeable in a community. So I did appreciate that comment.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Is anybody here from the public that would like to speak about this project?
Good evening, John Souza, speaking as a resident, 88 Carlisle Street. I've lived in the east section for my whole life, over 50 years. I live just a short distance down the street from this property, and I'm here to speak against this proposal for a few reasons. This is a book on the history of Chelmsford that you may all be familiar with, and it's published around 1998. Just to highlight some of the historical significance of this property, you see the Marshall House here with the barn. This picture was probably taken in the 70s due to the car that's in the photo. I'll pass this out to the board.
Thank you. Thanks, John.
The concerns that I have with this proposal are, first, the density. You're taking this proposal takes a property that has a single-family home on it. The single-family home, is my understanding, it's going to be converted to a 2-family, and then we're talking about raising a barn that's there now and then replacing it with a multi-unit rental residential property. Basically, you're talking about a small mini apartment complex on this piece of land. The parking area that Selectman Diggs talked about and asked the question, I count 14 spaces there. Right now, for years and years, when that was a single-family home, the most that family ever had there was probably 1 or 2 cars. So you're talking about making a dramatic change as opposed to having 1 or 2 cars on this property. You're now changing it to have the potential to have 14 cars. People have visitors over, people have gatherings. I think it's a very dense use of this property. In addition, it's been discussed by others that on Carlisle Street, this is right near a very sharp curve. Cars do travel at high rates of speed, and I think you're going to have a serious problem with 14 cars every day or more exiting and entering this property right on this curve. Some of the other things I think that are concerning is that, in my opinion, I think it's out of character. If you were to come over, and I invite any of you to come over and meet with me and walk Carlisle Street, if we were to start down where Carlisle Street intersects Route 3A or Gorham Street, and we were to walk up past my house all the way down where Carlisle Street ends and at the low line, we would be hard-pressed to find any multi-unit complexes that are going to look like this. The vast majority of the homes in this area are single-family residential homes. So for these reasons, I just take issue that it will not have an adverse impact in the neighborhood. My other concerns is, I take a different view. I think the barn is historic. I understand that people may not be into farming anymore and have animals, so therefore it may not have a use. It may have to come down. But I don't find it an eyesore. It probably needs some restoration. I question that it's not safe for the simple reason that for the past several months, when you drive by this property every day, there was a sign on it at one point saying for rent. So why would someone rent a structure if it's ready to fall down? Being respectful of us with the time, those are my basic issues with this proposal, but I would ask the board to please reject it as a LIP project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rick Weber, 2 Marshall Street. I'm actually the property right here, so I have a very close view as far as the barn and the existing farmyard, the existing farmhouse. To start off with, I'd like to refer back to Mr. Belansky's letter regarding suggesting that there be a cooling off period to kind of see how other 40B projects are coming along, as well as reevaluating this project under the 2017 plan, not the 2011 plan. As it was mentioned, this project was originally submitted under the 2011 plan, and given that it's been the new plan has been recently approved, it should be reevaluated under that. Looking specifically at this property, my main concern, a lot of the concerns raised earlier, I certainly echo those between the safety, between the density. Looking at directly across the street is a park there, and if you're going to be having families with kids, it's going to be extremely tempting for kids to be going across the street to a park that on a very busy street. So there should be considerations and studies to make sure, if this plan does go through, that there are appropriate safety measures put in place for those residents there. But as pointed out, Mr. Harvey mentioned that there are several examples as far as non-conforming RV structures out there, but again, the vast majority of it is single unit housing. It's a great residential area. I actually purchased the property in 2007, and I bought it because of the barn. I was looking forward to moving to this area and having a rustic barn, having the rustic feel there as part of my community, and having it being torn down would be a significant detriment. Having it torn down and then having an apartment complex replaced with it would be a significant detriment to the value of my property. And finally, I don't know if you noticed for the various walkthroughs, but that barn actually sits up on a hill compared to my property. So any property, that barn is currently about 10 feet, maybe 15 feet higher than my property as it is. So you don't only have to worry about the height of the building, it's also going to be 10 or 15 feet higher than my property specifically as well. So there's going to be a significant loss of just privacy, because now it's going to be very difficult for any sort of blockage, visual blockage to be put in place to and ensure that kind of privacy. And that's about it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I'm sorry.
Well, just a question to Mr. Harvey concerning something he said. How is the right way to do it?
Why don't we let the public speak, and then we'll have Mr. Harvey address their questions.
Good evening. I'm Linda Prescott. I'm representing the Historical Commission. We've partnered with Mr. Harvey on quite a few projects now. And I'd like to start out by saying historic preservation is never black and white. It's always shades of gray. We always compromise, and you have to. In order to keep the house standing, it needs to be turned into a two-family. It's an extremely large structure. And this is going on currently now. The town has approved apartments, in-law apartments, over garages on properties now. And that definitely is a visual difference to your property. But this house will not change. Mr. Harvey has approached us, and he wants to put a preservation restriction on the lot, on the building. Restrictions don't, it's a way of easing an older structure into the 21st century. Basically, he will be partnering with the town to keep the outside of the building as it is today. And when it needs to have changes, clapboards have to change, roofs have to change, there's things that have to change. They will work with the Historical Commission to keep the house very much the way it is. So making a two-family is very responsible preservation, and we support that. It's all over the place, and it's one of those things that is done, and we support it. As far as the barn go, barns are tough. They generally, at this point in time, are falling apart. That was a dairy barn, and there has not been any uses really for dairy barns, so they are allowed to fall apart. We just approved one for demolition, and it was a hazard. We have issues. There was an insurance issue with one on Lock Road. You couldn't get insured unless it had major work done, which the family fortunately did. We've been in this barn structure, and it really is not restorable. Now, Mr. Harvey's coming to us with a plan. He has put this barn up on Dalton Road, and it has worked very well. The neighbors have really liked the building. And in the beginning, when we had hearings, there was a lot of pushback, a lot of talk, against the project, until one of the neighbors happened to say, well, there was a barn on that lot. Why don't you put it back? And actually, the neighbors supported the project. So we are supporting the barn. It's smaller in scale than what's there. This barn would not be used, and it's going to fall apart. It's going to be more of an eyesore, and it will become just a danger for everybody around it. So we will we support just the replacement of the barn. It makes sense. The only difference I would like to see with this plan is not red. The barn's white now, and it kind of blends into the community. But there were plenty of barns on that street. And as far as keeping the neighborhood the way it isn't going to happen here in Chelmsford. It doesn't happen anywhere. Time goes on, land is valuable. And we're going to look for more multiple units in large buildings. We don't want this farm to go the way of the Dutton House. I mean, we all remember that was a beautiful building, and we lost it. So we don't want it to go that way. So this project represents responsible preservation. And working with the commission, which Mr. Harvey has done in several projects, we keep it under control, scale to the taste of the neighborhood. And using it for some affordable housing is a wonderful idea. We have a big need, and if we don't accept these projects, we're not going to have responsible contractors or builders such as Mr. Harvey building historically sensitive units. Is there any questions? Because I know there's often questions about preservation restrictions and preservation in general. Yes, sir.
Is there anything protecting the barn now? Could he tear it down and just...
It would, because of its age, it's over 75 years old, it falls underneath the demolition delay bylaw. And that would hold them up at the maximum a year. But with this barn, we'd also ask the Commissioner of Buildings to come in and look at it and give us his opinion on structural safety. So it could come down immediately, just be deemed a danger. But the most it can hold it up is a year. That's sort of the flaw in the demolition delay bylaw. So it's best for us to work with somebody, and sort of so that something respectable goes back in and something that will serve the community. I know it's a busy street, but it's only going to get worse as time goes by, and I'm sure it's a lot busier since everybody has those GPS things on their phones. So, it's unfortunately, all of our neighborhoods are going to be hit with, the future. I mean, we have to march on.
Thank you, Linda.
Okay.
Hi, Anita Tanini, 8 Columbus Ave, and I'm also Precinct 4 rep. I live in this neighborhood. This neighborhood is a single-family home neighborhood. It's an old neighborhood, so we have small lots, big lots, non-conforming lots, everything is in here. But it is a single-family home with some exceptions. One thing, it is a nice development. I'm fine with turning the house into, a duplex, 2 condos. I think we're overstepping by bringing in rental property. Rental properties bring down the neighborhood's value. If we want to take that barn, I get it, we need to change things and we can do it tastefully, then, you could easily put in a condo unit, a 2-family condo unit, nicely, tactfully, that would fit this neighborhood. And that's where I'm having the issue. Rental properties, we can't just be putting them up all over town. There's a reason why we had the 2017 plan put in place, was specifically to stop this. and again, I'm all for development, and I think you guys know me well enough to know that. But we need to do it correctly. And my fear is also from an infrastructure perspective, we're putting in a lot of rental units in the town. And, small one here, small one there, small one there. And we all know, we can only support so much infrastructure for this. So I would, caution. I can also tell you as a town 4 precinct rep, I've gotten multiple phone calls from my neighbors. Yesterday I was walking the neighborhood and someone stopped me and brought up this development and how unhappy they were. I can also tell you the Shed Lane development that was put up in the 80s behind here, used to be all farmland. At one point the developer came and asked for it to be condos. The neighborhood fought that so they could be single-family homes on acre lots, and it's a beautiful complex. And I remember the sunsets over the hill, because this is up in a hill, and I remember looking out, and to this day, I still drive by, and now I see houses. I don't see those sunsets, but they did put in appropriate housing that added value to that neighborhood. Rental units do not add value to our neighborhood. So I would request that you deny this request.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Christensen. I live at 66 Carlisle Street, and I oppose this development. Again, I think this is a single-family neighborhood. I don't want to see rentals there. I think that, we have other issues. There was an approval maybe a quarter mile from there, 14 houses on 11 acres with wetlands, which I'm not sure how that got approved. And the houses that were sold rival the size of this farmhouse. So I don't even think there'd be a problem with this being sold as a single-family home. For its historic value, I think that both the house and barn should be preserved. I know that, again, within a quarter of a mile, there's another 40B proposal of 11 units, and that raises questions with me as far as we're constantly on water bans. Perhaps I should have asked the gentleman who was here earlier giving a presentation, but, at what point do we have too many homes, too many people that are stressing the amount of water supply, the infrastructure, that many more vehicles, that many more people, and then not to mention the school system. Right now, as far as I know, we are overcrowded. We're renting trailers to put onto the elementary schools. What are we doing with all these extra children that are moving into the neighborhood? How are you providing for them? What is the town's plan? So I think we have a lot of issues here that need to be addressed before something like this could be proposed. And again, rentals in a residential neighborhood I don't agree with, and I'm wondering when the town maybe will, kind of pick up the narrative. Do we not have empty mill buildings that are, more conducive to rental properties? Or even in North Chelmsford, don't we have, the old Wang Center? That's a large building, large piece of property. Could that not be converted to things that are more appropriate for 40B development? So just a few ideas, but again, I oppose this, and I'm hoping that you vote it down.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Chris Bowman, 3 Julio Street, also Precinct 4 rep. I understand the residents wanting to keep their single-family neighborhood a single-family neighborhood and keep the feel that it currently has. I also understand the attraction of Mr. Harvey's project in that he is a responsible developer in developing consistent with the town and also doing a low-scale project for 40Bs. So these are competing interests. Both have very good arguments for for both sides. But my question is more along the lines of the overall vision for the 40Bs. In the spring town meeting, it was expressed that the town is going after the purchase for the UMass Lowell West Campus in North Chelmsford, which is 35 acres. By purchasing that acreage, the town could very easily put in all the required housing to meet the 10% statutory requirement with enough room for growth. So having that kind of vision and knowing what can be done brings up the question of how many 40B projects really should be supported when the town can do this in a comprehensive plan method. The reason for bringing this up again is in order to keep the single-family neighborhoods as single-family neighborhoods and retaining them as such, because especially in the 4th precinct, there's a lot of encroachment with commercial zoning, with commercial buildings, with 6-story buildings, with over 100 units of multifamily housing. So we in this area feel highly impacted with everything that is going on. Again, Mr. Harvey's project is low impact. So I understand if someone says, yeah, but you're not talking about what we're talking about right now. But in reality, I am, because the town needs a comprehensive plan. I feel both for the residents and for Mr. Harvey, so I'm not really sure what the best outcome is, only that I would suggest to Mr. Harvey that if the project is approved to go forward, to modify the landscaping so that from the street, the project does appear more like a single-family home, including the parking spaces, to make them not so obvious. At least that would be helpful in retaining the look and the overall feel of the neighborhood. So I thank you for your time, and good evening.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate the comment. Okay, we have somebody else to speak. And we are talking just about this property this evening, so
I know.
I appreciate keeping.
Bill
your
Harvey's my
comments.
landlord. I was very happy when Bill told me about this
could you give
project.
your
Oh, I'm
name?
sorry, Sandy Donovan. I'm mostly known for running the food pantry in town. And I'm very well aware that we need more affordable housing in Chelmsford. We don't have enough. You're not dealing with the people like I am every day that are looking for homes. They're looking for places to rent. And maybe is it possible, Bill, that someone could buy those places eventually, a unit?
No, there'd be rentals.
Rentals, okay. Well, that's a question you might be asked sometime. But we do need more affordable housing. There's no question about it. And if any of you have seen the project that he did on the Spalding Farm, right across from where he lives, it's beautiful from the outside. And I'm sure it's just as beautiful on the inside. I've heard good things about the projects that he undertakes. So I would really ask you to ask God to guide you in doing this, because we really need affordable housing. I can't stress that enough. I'm the one that deals with a lot of the people that are hurting financially and can't find affordable housing in Chelmsford, and they want to stay in Chelmsford. So that's why I'm here, and to support Bill. Thank you. Take care. God bless.
Thank you.
Joe Reddy, Precinct 1, and I'm also a resident of 9 Turnpike Road. I've done work for Mr. Harvey, renting units for him, and I can tell you that, one, this project I'm in support of, because ultimately it would almost be like 5 affordable units based on the way that he rents his units. The rents that he asks are significantly lower than most market rate rents. I can tell you up in Scotty Hollow, 2-bedroom units are asking closer to like $1,800 a month, whereas his units are usually $1,450, $1,500. I think that's a huge benefit for the community. I live on Turnpike Road. I think that it's a community. I have on one side 1-acre lots running all the way up the street. We also have large developments that are going in across the street. And so, you know, how do you define a neighborhood, right? I mean, there's always sections of town, and no matter where something goes up, it's going to impact people regardless. The one thing I like about this project in particular is if you look at the project that David Hedison has done on 110, it's 100% affordable. If you're a person renting there, eventually people go, oh, they live in the projects. We all know that unit's 100% affordable, so we know you're the poor person, which isn't good. That's not the kind of stigmatism we want. One of the benefits to having projects like this is that people don't know whether or not you're economically disadvantaged or not. This gives people an advantage to trying to rise themselves up. This is a nice area town. I don't know that this would particularly impact the residents from a value standpoint, just as being a realtor. I've heard this argument many times, yet I've seen homes, even here where we built the fire station, across the street, they went up for sale, they sold within days. The fire station did not impact the value of those homes, but they complained at the time that it would. I think
But
that
again, we're talking about this project.
I'm using it as an example because this, across the street from this, is the MEC Technology Center. I mean, it's not exactly the most conforming neighborhood. It's not like you're going into Hitching Post, sticking a 7-unit complex in the middle of an RB zone. So I do think there's a huge benefit to this, and I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harvey, do you want to address any of the comments that were raised? And I think Glenn had a...
Well, I think one change is we all know the barn's going to be white now. So it's going to go from red to white, so that should make everybody happy. I respect the people that have came up, even in opposition, to raise their concerns, pursuant to the rules of doing this slip. And of course, Mr. Cohen was nice enough to remind me, because I forgot, was to make sure I sent a letter out to the neighbors, reminding them of the meeting, which I did. But I sent them actually two letters. I sent them letters dated March 9th as well as May 12th. Regarding my proposal. The letter reached out to them to more or less assist me with any of their concerns. And I never received one call or one response. So if that was the case, once again, I would have been more than happy to speak to anybody about any privacy concerns, any parking concerns, anything like that. But was significant in my letter is I asked them to drive over to 75 North Road and take a look at that project and how that may have positively impacted that area or, in their opinion, negatively impacted that area. But I think this will be a great enhancement to the East Chelmsford neighborhood. And I'd ask that you support it and support affordable housing.
Glenn, did you have another question?
Yeah, just a couple of comments. First, let me thank all the speakers, because that's what this is, a forum for everyone to have a say in the project, and I think that you were well represented to speak on it. Someone referred to the height differential, and I was out there, I looked at it, and that house, that barn is on a rise from the adjacent property. But the new structure is, it looks like it could not be any higher than the one that's there now.
Absolutely
and so
not.
that's not going to impact that in any way, I assume.
No.
And secondly, in terms of dividing the older home into 2 units, we had talked, as far as the board had talked, I believe in town meeting, approved reselling 101 Mill Road, and one of the stipulations that was talked about putting in there was to make it not prohibited from becoming a 2-family, the same way that this would, because it's a large structure. So, I don't see any difference between this large structure and the one on 1 Mill Road being a 2-family in a residential area. So I don't think that's a negative. Again, if the bond is, I can't see anyone coming in and renovating that bond. Why would anyone do it? I mean, what are they going to get out of it? It's not going to be for farming anymore. There's no farmland around there to, control their farming utensils and animals and so forth. So it would seem that the only way to keep it from just falling under itself is to repurpose it and repurpose the land it's on. So
Thank you.
that's all.
Anybody else? Ken?
It's now our time to make comments.
You can make comments, yeah.
Well, I'm sort of impressed, Bill, that you were able to get Sandy and Deb to sort of give you the endorsing nod. I know Sandy personally, and I'm blown away that you were able to get her up here to speak positively about you. But I look at the property, and I also drove out there and drove that road, and my first observation was how close the barn was to the street, and that does make me nervous, and I'm happy to see that you moved it back. I live near your other property, the other barn, and I know the residents around there who I walk with occasionally down North Road, a lot of them don't even realize that there are people living in that. So again, I think that's another positive in your favor. Happy to hear that you're not going to paint it red, though, because to me that does sort of stick out. If you want to paint the other one white, that'd be good too. So I think it was well thought out. My heart goes out to the people that live in that neighborhood, because
It's a busy road.
yeah,
Busy.
I agree. And John, your comment, you take a walk with you. I don't know if I'd be willing to do it on that road.
Adds more cars.
Yeah.
It's too narrow. And it's across the street from a park. That's my concern.
Well, in the neighborhood I live in, there was a small ranch with a wooded lot taken down and probably about a 3,600 square foot house stuck up, and that is now my view. And there's nothing you can do about what people decide to do.
It's on a dangerous curve.
Okay, we don't need to have a debate this way.
I'm just saying, I'm just stating. I'm not
Well, then you
debating
should come up to the microphone if you want to.
Want me to?
Okay, let's.
So
So-
that's the extent of my comment.
Okay, let's let these other members of the
Excuse me.
public make their
Nancy
comments.
Souza, 88 Carlisle Street. Have any of you selectmen driven down that road lately?
Today.
Early in the morning?
This
You
is
have?
just- This is an opportunity for.
I'm just
comments.
asking if anyone has driven down
I think
Carlisle
everybody-
Street.
We probably all have at one point or one time or other, but could
It's
just,
on a dangerous bend. It's across the street from the brand-new playground. Please consider that. That's all I'm asking. It's a busy, busy road.
sure. Okay, thank you.
Hi, Rick Weber again. So two follow-up comments regarding the height differential. The current building height right now, that building is unoccupied. Compared to now, there's going to be 5 families with a direct overview into, over my fence, into my property, that kind of stuff. So that's one of my main concerns. And second, following up, I did contact, I did reach out in the March timeframe, raising my concerns about the property and stuff. So just so that I wasn't silent. Once I found out about this, I did reach out and try to, try to work something out.
Okay, thank you. Laura, do you have any comments?
I have one comment. I do hear the concerns of the residents, most particularly the next door, the abutters, that's most concerning. One thing I do want to say is a lot of times you start hearing affordable housing coming into your neighborhood and there's this big panic. And I don't know if anyone knows where I live, on Dunshire Drive, and 2 houses away from me is a converted farmhouse. It is, I don't know whether there's 5 or 7 apartments in that building, but there are no fences between my backyard and all the others. They are the quietest neighbors for the last 23 years I've ever met. They are quieter than everybody in their single-family homes. On the other side of my circle is 3A, and that is lined by apartment complexes, so that the people on the other side of my neighborhood, they can see the light shining through their backyard. But at the same time, I've never had a problem with any of those neighbors either. The apartments that Mr. Harvey is proposing here look very similar to the type of apartment that I would have been looking to move into when I was first married, before I had children, and I preferred living in a single small home versus going into a big apartment complex. I found that they were quieter. You didn't hear people running up and down the stairs. And so I just want to say that I'm not afraid of a unit of, or 5 units or 7 units moving into this area, because I live next door to this and it isn't affecting my life at all. These are wonderful people. So just to state that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if we don't have any further discussion, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
Just one thing. I think the last time we did this, we held the public hearing until the additional meeting in case anyone else wanted to come forward. Do you want to
I think
allow
that was only
that?
on a liquor license.
I thought
We've
so,
never done it
too.
on one of these.
I thought it was, yeah, I'm not aware of that being part of the policy or.
I didn't know if
part
it was a
of our past
policy. I
practice.
just know that the last time that Mr. Harvey was before us, it was a 2-session meeting. So as long as
It was
everyone.
actually one.
Was it one?
Yeah, it was one meeting, yes.
Okay.
Just talks a lot, it seems like,
Yeah.
too.
Oh, maybe it just, he passed his packet. We wound up with 2 packets over the time frame, so.
That could be.
That, somehow, maybe that's why. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to close the public hearing?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and we have a motion on approval or disapproval of this local initiative project.
I would like to make a motion to approve this local initiative project for the Thomas Marshall Estates Development LLC at 61 Carlisle Street, Chelmsford, Massachusetts.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? George, you want to make any comments regarding the
No, I think
Housing
everybody's
Advisory
made them.
Board?
I mean,
Okay.
pro and con, I think we've all been down there. You know, we addressed a lot of it during the Housing Advisory Board, and a lot of the stuff has come out.
All right, then we'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
What was the vote on that? Was it
5.
5-0?
I lost my agenda.
If there's anybody that doesn't need those packets, just wanted to let you know I could collect them. It would save me a little bit more money when I go to the ZBA.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, no, that's not the package he's looking for. He's looking for the spiral one.
Oh, I didn't get one of those.
I'd like to make one comment. I live in an 8-apartment complex, and it's very, very quiet. You wouldn't even guess there's 8 different families living there.
Okay, next on our agenda is a discussion about an award for a bond anticipation note. John Souza, do you want to tell us about that?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'm pleased to report that last Thursday, we had a successful auction of a bond anticipation note, $2.2 million note. As many of you know, this will finance the initial phase of the modular classroom project for the Chelmsford Public Schools. The winning bidder was Enterprise Bank with a rate of 0.85%. As many of you remember, the good news is today that usually when I come before the board to ask you to approve a long-term bond sale, I have a long motion, probably a page long, and then that's prepared by bond counsel, and we ask you to read it into the record, then take a vote. The good news is with a short-term note like this, that's not required. Although the documents that I left for the board, I would respectfully ask for your signature for those because I would not be able to borrow using the bond anticipation note without your signatures. Once those documents are approved, we'll be able to proceed forward. This is a 36-day note. So basically what will happen is the town will be borrowing this money short-term from June 1st to July 7th. And the reason for this is under municipal finance laws, whenever we have a capital or a project like this, Right now, our facilities director, public works, and the school department are doing a lot of initial work to be able to get this project done. So the reason we need to borrow this money is all of the work that's done on the project right now before June 30th, any invoices that come in for such as site work, planning, etc., those invoices that come in before the new fiscal year, we need to borrow funds to have them available. If we don't do this, our free cash that's certified after this fiscal year closes would be reduced by any amount. So and now obviously that would put us into a deficit. So that's the reason for us borrowing the short-term note. So I would ask for your approval of those documents. Moving on to a couple of
Why don't you stop there?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, we can take a
I'm
vote.
sorry.
We need a vote, and this is important.
Is that,
Do you have a question?
yes, is that 85 basis points, is that for the 36 days, or is that is that the annualized rate?
That's the annualized rate. So then what you basically, to answer your question, Ken, you would then just, that rate will be divided by 360, and then
multiply by 36.
the interest cost for this is about 1,870, if my memory's right. Yep.
Good answer.
Yep.
Good question.
Yeah.
Any other questions about the borrowing? Could we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the $2,200,000 36-day bond note for Enterprise Bank.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions, discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I guess that's a 5-0. Okay.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
You have something else for us, John?
Yes,
or-
just to give you to provide the board with a couple of updates on some properties that we're working on. The first, although it's not a tax possession, it was discussed at town meeting as the 101 Mill Road site. Just to update the board, I've been working with the town manager on, we were working on some language to develop an RFP. That RFP is currently being reviewed by town council. So when that comes back, we'll be able to provide you with more updates. We're just having town council review all the language. The second property is Morose Ave that I know we've talked about in the past. This is a foreclosure for unpaid taxes, or what we call a tax possession. And in working with our legal firm that helps assist with these, I'm pleased to report we have a date scheduled for a public auction. It'll be Tuesday, June 27th at 10 a.m. The auction will be held here in the meeting room next door. We'll be working in the next couple of weeks to send notices to all the abutters of this property. It will be advertised on the town website and also in local newspaper. And so, we hope to be able to, hopefully we'll have a good turnout on that.
Excuse me.
Oh, sure.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Do we have a minimum bid on that, John?
That's something, George, that I wanted to talk to the board about, because in addition to being treasurer, I serve was appointed years ago as tax title custodian, which is basically a fancy way of saying that once we foreclose properties, I oversee these properties, and then I'm responsible for selling them, getting back on the tax rolls. One of the things as tax title custodian is, because this is basically an abutter-only parcel that we're talking about here, it's about an acre of land, but it does not appear to be buildable. It's one of the reasons that I would be conducting the auction. If this was a single-family home or a condo, we'd most likely have an auctioneering firm, but I just think it may not be practical in this sense. We've talked about in the past, the assessed value of this parcel is about $97,500. I just like to, as tax title custodian, get a little feedback from the board tonight, just as far as when we schedule this auction, we can set a reserve or a minimum bid, and just if you want to give me some direction. Obviously, if two people show up and they bid $10,000, as tax title custodian, I can reject all the bids, and then we'll come back to you for further action. But if you'd like to discuss it and get back to me, that would help, just for what you think is reasonable for a reserve or a minimum bid, and then we'll.
Well, I mean, obviously the town would want to at least get what they have into the land, right? I mean, maybe more. But I mean, what is the land standard? So maybe we don't want to make it public, but I guess.
Well, we'll have to publicly announce the minimum bid at the time of the.
Yes, but what I'm saying is.
What do we owe?
That's what I'm saying.
What taxes
what is the land stand at?
It's not substantial if you want me to get into it now, or it's.
Yeah, because I think we started that discussion way back when we first brought it up.
Right, and I thought we did come up with a minimum number that we had.
I don't think so.
John, after how many years do you take a property that doesn't pay taxes?
It takes generally, because of the timelines and the legal notices and land court, it's usually 2 to 3 years. So you're talking 2 to 3, could be 2 to 3 years. I don't have the information in front of me, but I can get it for you.
Legal, whatever.
The reason I wanted to bring it up to the board tonight is I know when this is going back probably a month or two when I appeared before the board, I think at that time it was probably a slightly different makeup of the board. I know Ken was elected recently. The direction I was given at that time was to try to shoot for $97,500 as a minimum. My only caution on that is where it's a non-buildable lot or appears to be non-buildable, I'm not sure that that's realistic. So I'm just looking for a little direction. If you want to talk about this in an executive session at some time, or I'll be...
Did we come up with that it's absolutely not a buildable lot?
It doesn't conform. I mean, we've asked the building inspector to look at it, and...
Even though one of the abutters said they wanted to build their parents' home on it.
No,
Some way linking the two.
They'd have to get a variance. And I came back to this board and asked if you wanted me to seek a variance, and the answer was no. We did not want to seek a variance, that we would sell the property as is. Because you didn't want to put the town in an adversarial position.
All we want
with
to
the
do is get our
neighborhood.
money and go forward.
Right.
Does that preclude the owner, one of them?
No, anybody can go. Anybody can approach the Board of Appeals after they acquire ownership of it.
And
right now it's
we didn't
worth zero.
We didn't want to
Right.
do it up front.
Well, to us, it's worth zero, but yeah, I mean, we did have 3 people that were here very interested
Right.
in it when we talked
Right.
about it at one of our meetings, so, I mean, I would like, if we're gonna set a minimum for it to be more than what is owed on taxes,
Oh, of
maybe
course.
less than 97,000.
What is
I
owed in taxes,
would like to
John?
see something between maybe 50 or 2/3 of what the assessed value is as a minimum.
I will send the exact number out to the board. I can send it out tomorrow to all of you, and I'll copy the town. But it's approximately 5,000 or somewhere in that
Can you do this
neighborhood.
multiple times?
Sure.
Yes,
We
and
set
that's
a level, nobody applies, we can lower it.
right. That's what I was going to say. And that's part of the reason. It's just seeking a little direction here. Is if as a person conducting the auction, if I open the bidding at 97.5 and there are no bidders, and then I'm just looking at a way to drop it down. If they're very low bids, then we can just not accept any of the bids and just come
I
back.
would say 60, if it
So,
can't be built on.
Can I just,
I don't think that's reasonable. I think that's too much money. That's only my
What would you,
opinion.
what would you say to that,
I don't know
George?
the answer, but that's why I asked what the town was owed the money. What's owed to the town.
5,000?
Okay, all right,
but-
okay.
No, so
Ken, okay, George, let Ken speak.
knowing rough tax estimates in the town, a property like that for 3 years, you're probably not talking more than 10, maybe 15 grand at most, and I think that's probably too low.
Right.
Being the new liaison to the Board of Appeals, I sat through their meetings last week and watched people come forward and ask for different variances, adding properties so that they could add on and then get a second in-law apartment, and a lot of that's probably pretty feasible, and I would have to guess that we're not too far off if you set the absolute minimum at 50 in the hopes that we're going to get somewhere around 60 or 70. I don't think that's probably too far off the mark. I understand 97.5 for a landlocked piece of land, but my guess is one of those abutters may come up with a creative way to do something with that land that increases the value of their land.
Yes, I agree with that. And when you asked me the question on the taxes, I will get you the exact number, but it's actually because of the value of the property in that, to my recollection, it's 5,000 to 6,000 for all 2 or 3 years. So it's not. I just didn't want to imply that it was 5,000 in taxes per year.
I'm just
a lot of it's
I'm
legal
shooting
fees.
high.
And, yep.
Yeah, but
Should we ask the assessors that are sitting in the audience if they want to give
He's
us?
assessed it at 97.5.
Yeah.
When?
Frank Green, Chief Assessor for the town of Chelmsford. John had approached me, I think, a month or two ago on this particular parcel, to try to establish, is this a buildable lot? So I explained to him that buildings of buildable land is valued at full and fair cash value. Potentially buildable, which is what kind of Paul alluded to in that this requires a variance, is assessed at roughly 50% of full and fair cash value. A lot that is deemed non-buildable definitively is 10% of full and fair cash. Based on the $97,000 valuation, I think we're carrying this lot as being potentially buildable, requiring a variance, as Paul indicated. Any prospective buyer would have to do their due diligence. So it's hard for me to say. They may very well be able to, once going through the appeals process, get a permit to build, in which case they have a valuable piece of property.
But you said potentially buildable is what discount?
50%.
So I'd put it around
So that
47.
$97,000 makes a little bit of sense without having the information directly in front of me.
Would it be too much to ask if you went out and took a look at it and put an approximate value on it, or he's
Well,
a
they've done-
professional? Is
they've-
that too
well,
much
they've
to
done
ask?
that.
No, not at all.
Is that-
I'll also speak with the building inspector once again
Right.
and get his feel for it, just to refresh my memory.
Okay, we can wait till our next meeting then to actually set that. But yeah, I think we should do it by then. Do you have to? You don't? Do you have? If you have a minimum price, do you have to put that in the advertisement when you advertise the auction?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, we may want to just be, try to,
Okay.
make people aware of it, but
Okay, so our next meeting would be June 5th. Is that sufficient for notification then?
that should be, we can get the materials out, because that will give them almost the whole month of June.
Okay.
John, you said the next room, the 205, is that what you mean?
Yes.
Glenn?
While John is here, I want to ask a question about procedure. We've touched on it a couple of previous times. I have no problem with the procedure on this property. You alluded to the fact that there's some work being done on the Mill Road property, a number of things. We want to put some restrictions on it and so forth. The legal is looking at all that, I guess. And I had mentioned previously that I'm not in favor of selling it as an auction. Where does that, has there been any discussion with legal counsel about how to do that, or if it can be done and so forth?
Yes, I can address that. Town manager and I talked about that, and because 101 Mill Road is not a tax possession or foreclosure, we have more flexibility with that, and we drafted an RFP, which is a request for proposals. So we're actually looking to take sealed proposals, which are almost like sealed bids on 101 Mill Road. So that will not be sold at public auction. Anyone will have the right to submit a sealed proposal. They just won't be at a public outcry auction or,
Why can't it be listed with a realtor or realtors? The reason is that it's not your typical property that's going up. This is a beautiful site. The building is not falling down. It potentially could be a two-family. The prices in Chelmsford are going through the stratosphere. All of these things suggest that we should at least try to sell it on an open market at a price we would like to get, at least, which is what we paid for it. And if it doesn't work out, we can always go to Plan B.
Yeah, we can, if the board so desires. I mean, we can set a minimum proposal price, I would think, in the RFP, and then still take sealed proposals that way, and then they're sealed, so you're getting I think that's a good way to do it, because then you don't have if only 4 people come to the room that day for an auction of the site, they can kind of look around the room and gauge the level of interest. When you're submitting sealed proposals, you have to put your best bid out there, and
Well, this is
this
is my only argument
Right.
against that. We are a capital society.
Mhm.
When people have an interest, they act.
Mhm.
All right, interest being financial gain. If you put it out there with multiple realtors, for whatever reason, any realtor can sell it. They will get a piece of the commission, but they will ensure that their customers come and see the property and envision it for themselves. If you do it as just we're sending it out, you're not ensuring that these people who are already in contact with a lot of buyers will not immediately call them, because there's nothing in it for them, as opposed to a commission. And the only question the town should have is, how do we get the most money out of it? Because we spent a lot for it.
Right, I mean, we want to maximize the recovery. My only concern would be with procurement issues. For example, you're going to have an issue where, which realtor do we pick? Because obviously the realtor that sells this is going to make a financial gain through the commission.
You could always
and-
have three in and pull their name out of a hat.
Well,
And everyone gets an-
I've never,
I don't think we can do
Well,
that.
there has to be, is there a way to do it? Should we talk to the town attorneys about it?
the law only really sets two ways for the disposition of real estate that I know, and that's either through a public auction, where you would bid, public outcry auction, or you can take sealed proposals if you follow a certain section of law. I didn't see anything in the procurement manual about listing it with a real estate agent, so that's my only concern. We can definitely check with town council and see what they say.
Well, I would suggest we do, because the goal is to get as much as we can for it.
Well, I think John has done this before, and I'm confident in his abilities to choose the best method to go forward.
Well,
to get the
should we
best.
vote on it?
We can vote on it, since you want to vote on everything. Do you have a motion?
I don't want to vote on everything. I'd like to
Do
vote
you have
on
a
this.
motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we investigate with the town council the opportunity to sell 101 Mill Road through a real estate environment.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah,
Paul, do you have any?
yeah. I mean, I think what John's trying to describe is very similar to what he just described about Morose Ave. If the town issues an RFP, we will make it publicly known in terms of our website and so forth, but also we would put a advertisement in the Lowell Sun of the availability of this property, similar to what a broker would put in terms of available property for sale. So I think we're going to hit the mark. And in fact, I think, John, correct me, but I believe you've already received inquiries from people about this property who are aware that the property is coming onto the market.
Yes, I've had 2 calls. I won't name the resident, but we've already had interest.
Good.
I know that I've bought a few properties, and if it's auction or a listing in the newspaper, I'm a little more hesitant, because I know there might be something that hides as far as how fast I have to close or cash buy or things like that, versus going to a realtor and knowing it's just a normal realtor process, and I'm more at ease because the realtor's explained to me that, you know, this is the property, here's the pros and cons, they lay it all out. I'd be, just out of curiosity, I don't think it would hurt if we did look to see if there was another way to, you know, use a realtor. I'm not sure if it's possible, but, because I don't know how you, like you said, you'd pick a realtor, but I would just want to make sure
We also pay a realtor. You're probably talking a $16,000 fee.
Are we paying an auction?
No.
Auction?
No.
He's doing closed bid, so there wouldn't be a fee.
I mean, I guess I'm reluctant to go that way because it's so infrequently done. And like I said, John has done this before with auction properties. We've been successful with them. I'm confident in what he would set up, and as he said, we've already had some interest in it. So that'd be my feelings on it.
It was similar to what the town did with Red Wing Farm. When the
Right.
town acquired the Red Wing Farm property, they then kept the land, and then they went and sealed bids and took proposals for the home itself, which we all know was purchased by,
Right, and we got a very good bid on that.
we got a very good bid on that.
I have seen properties, though, I want to say Westford had them listed on a realtor site where they had put 5 or 6 at once up for sale that I saw online.
Town properties?
Yeah. That was tax
Not an auction, not an auction service.
No.
A brokerage.
And again, I'm trying to remember back like 2 years, so I could be wrong, but.
I just have to agree that I think someone who's looking for auctions is looking for bargains. Somebody who's looking through a realtor is looking for, you know, their dream home. And that's kind of who we want to put in this house so that they keep it looking nice and they become invested in the community.
Okay, George, any comments?
I think what you just said made a lot of sense. What Laura just said does make sense. I see both sides, but I mean, we're stuck for $500,000 or so in there. I guess I don't know. You know what I mean? The only trouble is sometimes when you're dealing with a realtor, you're probably going to get the most money, but on the other hand, sometimes you get entanglements after you've tied up with a purchase and sale. Then somebody can't come up with the finance, and they're looking for an extension. I mean, the way John's going to do it's going to be one and done, basically.
Right, it's an as-is sale. Correct.
So, I mean, both sides has a good point. So,
I guess it'd be all right with doing it as a bid, as long as the bid was set. I don't know, I think we're going to discourage some people, though, if we do a bid.
Why is that? I mean, because we can still do 90-day closing and all the other things. I mean, the town doesn't have a constraint on when it closes, Ken, in terms of rushing somebody who otherwise could go out traditionally.
I think you're talking about two different buyers entirely.
If I had $500,000 to spend, I wouldn't be looking in the Lowell Sun for an auction, I would be contacting a professional and asking him to show me this property.
You'd probably do it online.
Well, and I think the other consideration, I mean, if we have town council look at it, I think the other consideration is how we would choose a Realtor. I think that
Absolutely.
might be a consideration and what that would be, so.
Well, it's a two-part question. One is, can we even do it?
Well, that's
And the
what-
second way is how we do it.
The motion was to talk to town council to see how we would do it, if we could do it. So that's the motion, and then from there, we can see if we're gonna do it and how we would go forward with it. So
This
that's,
could all be moved.
right.
Yep.
So we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm gonna be opposed, so that's 4-1.
Could I ask one question on the other piece, please? When we were gonna give that piece to Monroe Avenue to Habitat for Humanity, how were we gonna dispose that? Were they gonna pay $97,000, or we're gonna give them the lot, or what was it?
No, it probably would have been a donation of a lot. That's usually how those Habitat projects work, because they
That's
don't
why,
have
that's what I'm
funding.
saying, so that's why I couldn't figure out, on one hand, we were gonna give it away, on the other hand, we want $97,000.
We didn't know we were gonna have 3 people that were interested in it, I don't think.
You don't have 3 people
I was never going to
interested
give
in
it away.
I wasn't going to give it away.
Okay.
Oh, no, that's why, whatever. It's not important.
Thank you, John.
One other
Thank you.
question.
All right.
Can I make a comment about 101 Mill?
Quick.
Pardon me?
Please.
We talked about a preservation restriction, and I hope that when the sale comes up, that there will be a preservation restriction on the building. I was hoping to give you a positive update tonight about Mass Historic. I haven't heard yet. I guess that committee has not met yet, but I will keep you informed.
Okay, thank you very much.
The preservation restriction will be on the piece that we're selling, that's all, right? Or are you gonna put it on the whole?
On the house.
Piece that we're selling.
Okay, so next we have the submittal of the home rule petition about the additional liquor licenses.
Yeah, hopefully this is pretty straightforward. As the board may recall, under Article 21 at the spring annual town meeting voted by a vote of 124 to 7 to authorize the Board of Selectmen to seek a home rule petition from the state legislature to request 10 additional alcoholic beverages licenses to be drunk in the premises. Basically, the next step is for the board to take a vote to direct me to submit this to the legislature so that we can get this act into law.
How long do you think that's gonna take, Paul? They
You
may
never
not
know.
even be in session.
This
pretty
thing, right, this thing could be 3 months or it could be 13 months. That's the problem. We don't know, but the quicker we get submitted, hopefully the quicker we can get the attention of the legislature. But again, remember, the town meeting just authorizes the board. The board
I
now needs to
understand.
act to
The
direct.
point is, I mean, how you gonna go down and try to sell 5 or 6 restaurants when you don't have one?
Right, exactly. That's why time's of the essence. So I would need a motion, I need a
Okay.
vote from the board to
All right, do we
submit
have
this.
a motion
The
to that
delegation.
effect? No?
Sorry, I'm a little disorganized. Since, could you repeat?
Basically, it's the board moved to authorize the town manager to submit the home rule petition for the sale for the additional liquor licenses
Oh, okay, so we're,
to the state legislature for an action.
I will make a motion to approve moving forward with the legislative action required to get the additional home rule licenses as presented by Mr. Cohen.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Do we still have one left?
Yes,
Just one, right?
just one.
You want it?
Okay, Paul, we have town manager reports.
Yeah, real brief, Madam Chair. The board's aware, we want to inform the community that since our last meeting, the Senate Ways and Means Committee has released its proposed version of the 2018 state budget. They will be acting upon it this week in order to hopefully get it approved before they can recess for the Memorial Day weekend. And then it will go to the conference committee with hopefully that a final budget will be enacted and presented to the governor by the end of June for the beginning of the fiscal year in July 1. Basically, the numbers show the numbers in the Senate version of the budget, Ways and Means version, are very similar to what was in the House. And it's expected that despite the fact that the state has a revenue shortfall, that, very similar to what happened last year, the Senate will pass its version of the budget based upon the revenue estimates from last December, like the House did. But it's expected that what comes out at the end of the conference committee will be less in dollar amounts than what was approved by either branch. So what we're hearing is, and what that may mean for Chelmsford is it's quite possible that we may receive less unrestricted general government aid than was either approved by both the House and the Senate, because the number is the same, and in fact the same number from the governor, because apparently in order to meet the fiscal realities of the Commonwealth, that some cuts are going to have to be made, and it does not appear that it will be Chapter 70 education, but the other main revenue source is the lottery or the unrestricted general government aid. So I just wanted the board community to be aware of that. And then finally, two quick items. One is, and Gary's here in the room, and Gary, if I could ask Gary, because he patiently sat there all night, but do you want to give the board an update on the rail derailment cleanup? Because this is very significant, because it was a major concern at the time, and Gary really has been steering this effort.
Good evening, members of the board, Madam Chair, Mr. Cohen, Vivian. As the town manager said, if we can bring you back to the early morning hours of January 19th, Pan Am had a derailment on the section of rails that ran between Meadowbrook and School Street, which basically shut down both roads. It involved derailing 6 rail cars. The 6 rail cars that turned over were carrying contaminated fill from the Everett Casino site. So right away, Pan Am officials quickly opened up the trails, repaired the trails. They removed 3 of the 6 rail cars. But the issue that we've all been kind of working with over the past few months, the 3 remaining rail cars were on site and a small amount of soil. So Mass DEP convened a site visit last Tuesday on the site with Pan Am officials, myself, the town manager, Police Chief Spinney, Sue Rosa from the Health Department, and Todd Melanson. So I am happy to report, finally, we have got the 3 remaining rail cars removed. The rest of the soil's been taken away. They're upgrading sections of track, which is something we've asked for. I know that's a concern for you, and for me as well, and for the community. And they're going to continue to do some soil sample testing as a precaution. So many thanks that go on. There's been a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, a lot of site visits. So my thanks for everybody's help to get this finally done.
Thank you.
So if you got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
You're talking probably 60% of Chelmsford's water supply.
The aquifers for the center water, you're right, you're correct.
North Chelmsford and Chelmsford Center are
Right.
all included there.
Right.
That was the third derailment in the last 2 years, 3 years. We went up there trying to do the right thing with a meeting with the Congress people and the state people.
Right.
And they just laughed at us, you know what I mean? So the fact that you can get them to check, there's got to be something wrong, because
Right.
3 derailments in 2 years, and then when the manager of Westford went there, they just said, this is our deal, you're out of here.
And I share your concern, and I know the town manager does, so we.
Plus some of the, and it isn't just some of the stuff is what they carry on there.
Right. Oh, absolutely, it's a concern, so.
You know that. I mean, we've had to send special people for special training out to Colorado or something in the
And we're doing that tomorrow.
Okay.
And we're doing that tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're trying to push that relationship forward. So, I mean, we have a good working relationship with Mass DEP, so when they tell me that they're gonna get this done.
Right. That's good.
They did.
Because
They do. We have a good.
on our own, we'd be dead in the water.
And so with Mass, with Pan Am officials, we're trying to move forward with them. So we were actually joining with the town of Westford tomorrow to do some exercise, some drills on the rail car. They're bringing in the rail car in Westford. We're gonna join with them to drill. We're gonna do extrication drills. So we're trying to move forward on this.
They don't send you a manifest or anything like that, right? I mean, you can ask for it.
I can ask for it, but you're right. We don't know what's coming through. So again, my thanks to everybody involved to get this done.
Thank you very much, Gary.
So thank you.
And just the last item I have under my report is, since the last meeting, Evan Blansky and I went out for the site visit with Mass Housing for 7 Gorham Street. There's 2 vacant residential properties that will be raised. It's adjacent to Interstate 495 at the Lowell line. The reason you've not seen the plan and had an opportunity to comment is we were told by the developer at the site visit that they are substantially revising the plan, And then once we receive that revised plan, it'll be shared with you and the community, and then we'll then have an agenda item for the board to make its comments to Mass Housing on that project. So I did want to let the board know that is the status of that situation at
But
this
this is
time.
not intended to be a lip, correct?
No,
Just a-
no, it's not. But it's where it's been filed, project eligibility, the board has the opportunity to comment like we've done on others. So,
Okay, thank you.
that's my report this evening, Madam Chair.
Okay.
And then bid awards, Frank Green is here. We're seeking the board's confirmation for the personal property revaluation services, and I'll ask Frank to describe the process and what the results were.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cohen, Board, Madam Chair. This is our second or third time doing this. It's a 5-year contract, 3-year contractual, 2-year town option, in which the firm we're looking to contract with goes out, visits all the personal property, business personal property, taxable business personal property. It's a site visit. They go out and inspect the property for the taxable personal property, report that back to us, and it is ultimately taxed and included in the recap. As I said, this is, I think, a second or third time with a 5-year contract. It's not mandated by the Department of Revenue in terms of doing these site visits, but it's strongly recommended. We do send out forms of list, which requires the business owner to fill out all the items that are taxable. Business personal property is just that. It's not to be confused with a resident's personal property, but rather furniture and fixtures, machinery and equipment used in the conduct of business. So it's purely a commercial use, if you will. We've been using this firm for quite some time. We sent out the bid, I forget the exact date, I believe it was late April. The bids came back, and the RRC, Real Estate Research Company Incorporated, was the winning bidder. I've used them in the past. They're somewhat of one of the bigger companies that do this kind of work. Personal property is one of the items that, in terms of new growth, historically over the last number of years, has equated to about half of our new growth. The last couple of years, last year, for fiscal 17, it was $628,000. That's cash money to the town. The prior year was just under $700,000. Fiscal 15 was $755,000. 14 was $525,000. It's a fairly lucrative way of getting new growth. And Chelmsford is particularly unique in the sense that we have a lot of relatively high number of high-tech firms that generate those types of items. Those types of personal property are high value, particularly in the early years. That's why it behooves us to grab them early while it's 100% valued, as opposed to when it starts to depreciate. Those types of items depreciate pretty rapidly.
So the $66,000, is that per year, or is that?
Yes, that's it's escalated each of the first couple of years. I didn't carry them out to each year, but it's $55 per account, $57 per account, and then $60 per account, and we're looking at roughly 1,100 accounts that we have.
Okay. And did we get more than one bid back?
We did not.
Okay. So you have used them before, and you're satisfied with their?
Oh yes, I've used them for a dozen years or more, and they've been in business since I think the 80s.
Okay, thank you.
When you say a dozen years, is that continual dozen years or off and on?
That I've used this particular firm, I've used them for a dozen years.
Straight through?
Yep, uninterrupted. Yep.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the bid award to Real Estate Research Consultants for $66,000 per year for the 5-year contract.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Frank.
Okay, we have some minutes this evening.
Make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of March 13th, 2017.
Okay, Ken was not here. Do we have somebody else that will second that?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the minutes for March 13th?
Aye.
Make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of April 10th, 2017.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Make a motion to approve the executive session minutes of May 4th, 2017, not to be released.
You came in late, but, okay, George, you want to second that?
Wasn't there?
Yeah, you were.
One
This
of
was
them.
the litigation update.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve and not to release the executive session minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, selectmen liaison reports and referrals. Glenn, we'll start with you.
I don't have anything this week.
Okay. Laura?
I too am going to be quite quiet.
Okay. Ken?
I have a lot to say.
No.
So I got to finally attend a few of my liaison assignments, and I'll say that I got to meet a bunch of great people and learn more in the last couple weeks and attended more meetings than I'd ever thought I'd attend. But the only one thing that I'll, and then not a liaison to this, but we had the North Chelmsford Master Plan meeting last Thursday night, and I was asked to mention that they are looking for people to do foot traffic and traffic counts. They were looking for a few days. They're just one day left, Saturday, June 3rd, from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. They're looking for someone to do volunteer work to count cars and pedestrians up in North Chelmsford. You can go to the website. Monica didn't really give me the website, but she's got a phone number that you can go online and to the town website and look it up and contact her. And I guess there's a link there for sign-up sheets to do the sign-up for the traffic counts.
This is cars and people? I thought it was bicycles and people.
Okay, bicycle and people, you're right. But I know they just need people to sit there with the little board and count away so they can see what type of traffic's going through there.
Okay. All right.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Thank you. Okay, George?
The West Campus Committee is also, they're going to have a public input session. It's June 6th, I believe it is, at the Senior Center. And we've had one, David Hedison has made one presentation, and I think, I don't know, we've done some other, NIMCOG is, I think NIMCOG is coming up at the next meeting.
I heard that they were, yes.
And then we did what they call a SWOT, analysis of strengths, weaknesses, whatever. And we have a great committee, and there's a lot of interest. I mean, we get a full house at the meetings next door. I mean, so hopefully we're going to be able to work something out that for everybody's benefit and for the town's benefit. And I mean, there's a lot of pieces that are still put together, but Paul and Evan and David's helping out, and we have our committee, and hopefully, maybe somebody else will come up with some other ideas. So we have a couple on the table right now that are pretty good, I think. It's a matter of probably getting some financing or putting it all together, depending on. Everything costs money.
That's right.
So everybody has great ideas, but even like tonight, we heard a lot of great ideas. They should do this, they should do that, but people forget that when people invest money, they have to get a return on the money, especially big people who invest big money. And it's nice to be able to sit here and, play cards with, monopoly money, but when you got to put your own money up, it's people want to see a pretty good return. Is that how your investors do it? Just curious.
Update from the state on the whole process?
Yeah, we're expecting to see draft legislation in the next 2 weeks. I've obtained a proposal to do a site survey, perimeter survey and wetland survey, so we get a sense of the property. And also I have a proposal to do a hazardous material assessment of the inside of those buildings, what materials are there. The process is moving forward in terms of the governor's office is sort of leading this effort. The expectation is that if legislation is filed within a few weeks, it probably would not receive action until September. What I requested is that if, after the period of legislative enactment, that the town and Housing Authority and its affiliates, so forth, have a period of a minimum of 18 months of which to make a, act on the property, because I think we basically need 2 town meeting cycles. And the concern I had, and I explained this, and they said, well, why not a year? I said, well, let's say you do adopt legislation in September, and it becomes effective immediately with a preamble. Well, that really leaves us with 1 town meeting, because it's too late for the fall, and then you're really at April town meeting, and I don't think this should be rushed. So I've asked and requested an 18-month period. It appears that will be acceptable for the town to act. And then basically, if the town doesn't act in that 18-month window, then basically it goes to private development. So that's sort of where it was the latest discussions that we had. And I think the other thing that we'll be telling, again, is if we can get that hazardous materials survey, we really want to know, what is it you'd be confronting with those buildings? Because when you're talking redevelopment, some may be saved, some may be reused, but no matter what, somebody's going to want to know what am I dealing with in terms of asbestos or other materials in those buildings.
Yeah, you already talk about a lot of money between acquisition and tearing the buildings down. Now, if you had to do a soil cleanup at 21E or something like that, you're talking a couple $1 million more money. You're talking a substantial acquisition then.
Right. The license agreement that the university has granted to us, they would allow us to bring people on site to do the testing and the surveying and the wetlands and so forth. They won't allow us, the agreement does not allow us to do a full 21E at this point.
So we're shooting, we're really rolling.
That's something that we're going to have to consider.
A little bit,
that's something we're going to have to consider. Right.
So, George, you said that public input is going to be at the senior center or here?
Yeah,
Senior
center.
Great. Okay. You have anything else?
No, I just I hope everybody has an enjoyable Memorial Day weekend, and I hope that everybody stays safe, drive carefully, and don't drink and drive. Thank you.
Okay, I just have a couple of things. I want to thank everybody who came to the cookout that Agway sponsored on Saturday for the Military Community Covenant, including one of our selectmen who came by and spent some money there for hamburgers and hot dogs. We're so grateful to Lisa Bugalis, the owner of South Chelmsford Agway. She provides all the food and drink, and we get to collect all the money. It's a great situation, and we raised almost $300 there. So, thanks to everybody who came, and it was a good day. Paul, I wanted just to ask you if you could follow up about, you have been in touch with a couple of law firms, and they're going to come to our meetings next month, if you want to give us that schedule.
Yeah, and speaking for the chair, the plan is to have 2 law firms you get 2 meetings in June, two law firms on the 5th and 2 on the 19th, because I think the time we last did it, when we did 4 in one night, it was just interminable. And so I think if we do two nights, so we're just nailing down the dates on that, on the firms coming. Basically, it's interestingly, because the school department recently went out and did a consideration for legal services for the schools, and aside from Copeland and Page, basically the 2 other major firms were on their list, so they are the ones that we're bringing in as well. And then we are bringing in a local firm. So we will have 4 firms coming in. I don't know if you want me to state who they are at this point, or it's up to you. I mean, I can.
Yeah, I think you can.
Sure.
I mean, it's
sure.
not
KP Law has kind of come in. They're the incumbent. Murphy, Hesse, Toomey, and Lehane will come in. They're the ones who actually provide legal services for the school department.
They were here
last
last time.
And they're also a major law firm in the state. The other one is Myrick O'Connell will be coming in. They're more towards Worcester, Central Mass base, but they're also a major player, particularly in labor law and so forth. And then the final one is Blattman, Bobrowski, and Haverty, and they've teamed up with Mark Lanza to provide a full package. So that will be the four firms coming in before the
They're
board
out of Concord
next month. They're out of Concord, that's correct.
Do we know which ones are coming next?
Yes, the next meeting will be KP Law and Murphy, Hesse, Toomey, and Lehane, and then the meeting on the 19th would be Myrick O'Connell and Blattman, Bobrowski, Haverty, again, paired with Mark Lanza will be coming in at that meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any listing of criteria on which they'll be based?
Well, that's how,
It's up
it's
to
for the
us.
board, it's up for the board, how
So
you
that's-
wish,
yeah,
how you wish to
so have your
choose.
questions ready and, you know, what criteria you want to use.
So it's
to
not
select.
strictly a price thing?
Oh, no, not at all.
Have to be.
Oh, no,
No.
not at all. I mean, the price is very similar. The price is gonna be about $200 an hour. And that's basically what you're gonna pay for municipal legal services right now, so this.
Right now, we're just under that, right?
Right, well, 190. So this is not gonna be price dependent. It's really going to be who this board determines is a good fit for the community. And like I said, you've got local and you've got, you know, the major players in the state and,
Is there,
Go ahead.
the incumbent, how long have we been with?
It's gotta be, since the 90s, right?
I think so,
I think
yeah.
Bob Joyce was
He
priding
kept
himself that
saying-
he brought them in, so it's
Yeah.
probably
Is
93.
there any benefit to, I mean, do
Well,
they get to
they-
know the
they-
town better? They get to know the history?
And we get to know them better.
And does it save on them having to research things, or?
Well, that's the things we can ask them about.
Those are things you can ask, right?
So,
The one thing we didn't mention was that you delivered, personally delivered Mr. Bob Joyce's chair today because so I hope that Bob enjoys his chair.
Right.
You know, and whatever, so.
okay.
It would have been better if he had come in to get it, but he just didn't feel like it.
You can go visit him and sit in it. if you
I
want.
may.
Okay. All right, do we have any press questions this evening? No press questions. And it turns out we do not have a need for executive session this evening. That's delayed either next week or the following week. Just a reminder, we are scheduled to have our goals meeting next Tuesday, the 30th, at 6 p.m. No press.
When is that again?
Next Tuesday.
Tuesday.
6 p.m. Okay, no press. And so we can have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.